Y'all sponsors, so y'all can send it. This is just for us to bless it and then everybody go back. Because I just want to make sure that we're around. Yeah. We good, Jay? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today and being about the business of celebrating our 30th anniversary and the continuation of the Hip Hop Health Summit. So before I begin, I want you all to give yourselves a round of applause for being about the business of what we're trying to do here today. The panel discussion is about opioids and how hip hop affects it, and then how to navigate the music industry. This is something that we think a lot of people should and take full advantage of, because this is an opportunity to be a part of a free workshop. So all of the people that's watching us while we're streaming, we want to thank you guys for being here. And this is what this thing is all about. Before we begin the day, though, we would like to begin in prayer. We asked Evangelist Emma Williams to come and bless the day and for us to receive her blessing. So give her a warm round of applause.
I'm going to ask all that can and will please stand. Heavenly Father, we come to you and we thank you for this day. We thank you because you are God. You are the all-knowing God. You are the all-seeing God. You are the everywhere at the same time, God. And so we come before you this day. And we come, Lord, and you know everything, oh God, about this day. This day is already blessed because when you made the earth, you blessed the world. And so we thank you, God. We thank you right now. We pray, Father, that you would look on the leadership of this event. Look on Cedric, oh God, as he leads the people for this event. God, all good gifts comes from you. You are the giver of gifts. And so they are to be used for your glory and for your honor. And so we ask today that you would be, oh God, in the midst, that you would spearhead, that you would talk and speak. God, as things go forth, go before them. Be in the midst of them, God, for your presence is everywhere. And so we ask you, Father, to have your way today in the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. Oh, God, and we thank you now. We thank you, Lord. Oh, God, as they endeavor to bring awareness to the use of opioids, as they endeavor, Lord, to help to fix a problem, we ask that you would help them in the name of Jesus. For we ask these blessings in your name. Thank God. Thank God. Amen.
Thank you for the blessing of today. What we have now is our city who has represented with us, and we have James Bonnell, from the Director of Parks and Recreation, who is going to welcome us from the city.
Thank you guys very much. I knew it was going to be tough to follow. How do I follow that? But in all seriousness, I want to thank Cedric. I want to thank you all for being here. Cedric came and approached me about having this event. As a Director of Parks and Recreation, I want my parks to be used to its fullest. And when I see parks in the city, it's a place for the community to gather, to help each other out, to be with friends, family, others, to make connections. And I can't thank you all enough for being here and participating in this event to connect and help, make awareness of a very important subject matter and issue that we're facing. And more importantly, like I said, all you just being here, being available, ready for people to talk and just open up and communicate, because that all it takes is just that one connection to make that change. So I thank Cedric, I thank you all. I hope that it's a beautiful day. Not 9,000 degrees, we actually got nice weather. So thank you guys very much. Thank you, Cedric. Thank you for having the event. And if I'm in City Hall, if you guys ever need anything from me, please don't hesitate to reach out, because my office is all about bringing people together and helping out with events like this. So we're here for you guys too. Thank you.
All right. We want to thank James and Miss Emma for coming up and being a part of what we got going on here. We want to thank our sponsors, Thumbs Up Barbershop, Midnight Auto Sales, Green Meadows Dispensary in the cut back there. We want to big up them, Music Mania Television as well. Thumbs Up Kicks, they're here too. And our vendors from the Air Force, the Army, Central, Everyday Miracles. We have Latasha, she's doing her wellness and credit finance over there. Beauregard Candies, he's over there. Fashionista, she's Flirtatious. Oh, he's shaking. Flirtatious is over there. And Everyday Miracles. And you guys, man, thank you for being here. And we're going to jump into our panel right now. Our panelists are around, and I will call them up. And then I will give a brief bio on our moderator. Our moderator, Isaiah Tucker. He's a strong believer in God and the power of faith. A therapist, educator, and youth advocate. Isaiah brings over 22 years of professional social work experience as the co-founder and executive director of IVOC, an organization that incorporates elements of hip-hop as a therapeutic tool to support youth. Isaiah is driven by a passion to empower young people to leverage their natural strengths and skills as a therapeutic tool for expression and personal growth. So we want to bring Isaiah up. All right. With him comes Danny. Danny grew up immersed in music and dance, playing instruments and moving to traditional Puerto Rican rhythms from the age of 3. At 10, he discovered breaking thanks to his older brother and instantly fell in love with its abstract, powerful form of self-expression. Danny has traveled extensively to learn from and battle against some of the world's best dancers. He continues to share his craft through guest teaching, lectures, and presentations at school, colleges, and universities throughout Massachusetts. What was once a hobby turned into an outlet. That outlet became a successful career. All right. Our next panelist that we're bringing up is Brendan Scott Taylor. In a city where sirens sang lullabies and dysfunction was home, hip-hop became my street therapist. Born in Roxbury and raised in Mattapan during the turbulent 80s in Boston, I grew up surrounded by dysfunction and home and danger in the streets, where sirens sang us to sleep and corner stores served as makeshift sanctuaries. Hip-hop showed me a reflection of resilience. It didn't just soundtrack my life, it taught me how to speak, how to feel, and most importantly, how to live when everything around me screamed otherwise. We want to bring up Brendan. Yeah. Come on up. And we're going to let Isaiah take over as the moderator and begin.
Appreciate you, Seth.
No doubt.
Can we give it up for Seth real quick?
Yeah.
I'll pass the mic. Okay. Just to kick this off, man, it's good to see y'all here. Obviously, the topic is heavy, so it's about opioid use and its potential connections to hip hop. And so, just to kind of set the stage, some of the stuff we might talk about might be a little triggering. It might be a little heavy. I definitely like to try and use comedy a little bit to lighten things up, but it doesn't negate the heaviness of the topic. So I just want to throw it out there. This might be on my neck all day. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, let's pull up. It's smart. So just to kick things off, I just wanted to give everyone an opportunity to learn more about each of you. So I'll just pass the mic to Dan first, and just fill in any gaps in terms of things maybe Seth didn't mention, and then also your introduction to hip hop, like when you sort of first fell in love with hip hop.
Hey, what's up, y'all? So basically, I was introduced to hip hop through the dance floor, right? So breaking. My older brother, 4 years older than me, and everything he did, I wanted to do. So, he was spinning around and doing this crazy stuff, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to do that. Not for anything else, but to look cool or to be better than my brother, right? So that was like my introduction into breaking and hip hop. Later on in my life, I needed an outlet, and that outlet came through the dance, through the music, through the self-expression, through that form of just being able to move my body and not have anybody tell me what I can and cannot do, right? At a point in time where I needed it. As far as filling any gaps, that's just basically it. So I wanted to be better than my brother and look cool. After that, fast forward into high school when all the crew members kind of moved on. Some were, obviously in the streets. Some were, moving on to the military. Others got into relationships and had kids, right? And so for me, being one of the youngest in the crews, everybody around me, all my influences were just gone, right? And so I needed something, and the dance and the movement kept me sane. Because all of my inspiration and all the people that motivated me to kind of, stay out of the streets, and not get into all the drugs and all the other stuff. I was kind of ignorant to it because they kept me, as the little brother, they kept me away from the parties, the house dance clubs and all the underground stuff that was going on behind the scenes that I didn't really knew existed until later on in life. So again, just a little bit, of that, because I can talk for days, because my journey with this is over 25 years. That's a long time, and I said there's a long story between when it was a hobby and it turned into an outlet, and now is a successful career. I own a facility out in Leominster, Massachusetts, downtown, hip-hop facility, the only hip-hop facility that we have probably in Central Mass, like strictly hip-hop. We're not just talking about dance studio, we're talking about fitness, health, and wellness, meeting the artistry of the hip-hop culture. So all the elements kind of intertwine into one kind of facility where we're trying to, create a community center, per se. You know what I mean? I always get thrown out, oh, you're just a dancer. No, that's not what this is about. I'm not just a dancer, you know what I mean? I'm 38 years old. I don't look 38 because why? Because I keep moving. You know what I mean? A body in motion stays in motion, so that's why, I can say, look at me now, I'm still able to do some of the things I was capable of doing at 14 years old.
No, I'm glad you mentioned, yeah, please clap it up for that. And we're definitely going to get into, some of those years that you're talking about, you kind of skipped over in the different parts of hip hop that you benefited from. But glad for two things. One, you mentioned about hip hop as not just music, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then how you've made it, sort of this entrepreneurial portion of your life, this journey that you're on. I'm going to pass the mic to you, and then I want to get into a little bit about what even hip hop is. Like, how do we define it? What's the makeup of hip hop? And then I also want to say, if any of you guys have comments, questions, anything related to what we're talking about, you can raise your hand. We'll give you the mic. I'd love to, make this as interactive as possible. All right.
Hi again. My name is Brendan. As I said, from Boston, Massachusetts. And the first time that I ever heard anything about hip hop, I was in Boston, Academy Homes, and I heard Rapper's Delight, and that was the dance. When I first heard that, that was like, wait a minute, everything stopped, and we just got down. We had to go out and everything. Oh man, that was the first time that I, and it was just a feeling of it. Back then, we had a radio station called RBB. And it talked about a lot of, urban issues and stuff like that, and the music that went along with it, and I can identify with it. So I fell in love with hip hop at the age of maybe 10 years old. And that's all I heard. You know, my grandmother bought me a radio for Christmas, and you know, I would just have it to my ear. I wanted to hear it real loud. I went to sleep with it, ate with it, everything. And it was my go-to. You know, I came up in a dysfunctional family. You know, and it was, you know, it was like a hush. Anything that went on in my family, you wasn't supposed to tell nobody about it. You know, but the music was my expression of it. You know, as time went on, you know, there was some horror stories. You know, I lost my brother, and at that time, that what carried me was this group called Boogie Down Production. You know, and the media called us a gang. We were just homeboys that hung out together. You know, and KRS-One was our leader. You know, they had this song called, you know, The Bridge Is Over, you know, and we was at it, yo, and it was an expression of who we were, you know, and anybody that comes against us, it's over, you know, that's just how we expressed ourselves, you know, and there was a tragedy that happened that, you know, my brother got killed, you know, from a gunshot, and that really, you know, hit me hard, you know. It brought me to a point where I fell into addiction, you know. And some of the songs that, you know, mimic my life, you know, I followed that way. I thought it was all right, you know, to do drugs, smoke weed, you know. And back then they had this, you know, well, as time went on, I started doing that lean, or they call it syrup now, you know. And I heard it in this song, and I thought that was all right. It was cool. I didn't do the other stuff, but I end up doing the other stuff. You know, the pain was that great. And but today, you know, I still love hip hop. I'm a DJ. I'm a part of a recovery center. You know, I'm a recovery coach at that center. You know, so I turn my life all around. You know, that I don't have to allow my past to dictate my future. So you know, that's just where I'm at today.
Yeah, powerful stuff already, man. Thank you for sharing that. Just thinking about hip hop, right? What it means. For me, there's 5 elements to hip hop. We spoke about a few of them already, but actually, anybody know any of the elements of hip hop? You think of any? I see you smiling. Is there any that come to mind in terms of elements of hip hop? Yes, please.
Gotta have knowledge.
Knowledge, yes, knowledge of self. That's one of the key elements of hip hop. So hip hop, it's basically a culture, right? It's not just one thing, and we're definitely going to tap into that and the power of hip hop and its influence, right? You kind of spoke on that a little bit already, but yes, knowledge of self. We got breakdancing, b-boy, b-girls, right? We got music, rap. We have the DJ, which you talked about. So we have the DJ sort of rapping, the MC, we have dance, we have knowledge of self. What am I missing? Yes, spray painting, right? Yeah, so we got calligraphy, we got artwork, yeah, everything related to that. All those 5 things that I mentioned fall under hip hop and hip hop culture. You know what's ill is we've been able to monetize that exponentially, right? So it started off with just in the sense of folks who are oppressed, struggling, going through it, and most of those folks looked like us, black and brown folks, right? And we took that creativity, and we just wanted to express ourselves. We just wanted that outlet, that therapeutic release, but then graduated to making it a $1 billion movement, right? So just to kind of set the stage on hip hop and its influence, and then, right, how that ties into opioid use and addiction and some of the things that Brendan mentioned. So I just want to see if you guys can speak to a little bit of opioids, right? Actually, did I miss anything with the definition of hip hop and what we talking about? I think I covered it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. So I want to ask you guys about just opioids or maybe even drugs, and when thinking about going back to when you started to first fall in love with hip hop, and what was the drug of use or the association to drugs, whether it was an artist, a rap group, or something you saw on TV. You want to go first?
Yeah, the first drug that I ever took was weed. You know, and the reason why I did it is because the guy that was popular in my school, I did it so I can be, you know, cool with him. I didn't even like weed. I did it because of him. And so, anytime that I smoked, it was because I wanted to be around everybody that I wanted to be hang out with. I wanted to be popular too. I wanted to be so popular, I started selling it. You know, if you wanted weed, go to Brendan. I remember one time I didn't have no weed, and what was it called? Catnip. I went and grabbed some catnip. Oh man. Anyways, and I got busted with catnip. You know, but as time went on, I learned to by the police. By the police, yeah. You know, it was in school. They called the police and whatever. You know, but that was my first choice, and like I told you before, it was the Boogie Down Production. You know, and that whole group. You know that they was talking about, and back then they talk about a lot of oppression. You know, and how to get over it and expressing about it and how and I can identify it because in my neighborhood we would look like that, and so we had two guys that we grew up with that were rappers, and so we had this location called Shea Boo's roller rink, and we used to rap there, you know, and so but there was a lot of violence too. And one time we went to a battle and they won. It was called what was it? RSO. So we got into a fight with them and beat them up because we lost or whatever. So it hit the news. So now we became a gang, you know, and that's just how we rolled. It's just like that, but you know, I wish it didn't happen that way, but that was my first introduction to all that.
Thank you. Yeah, so going back to it, thank you for that, man. I definitely gonna come back to a few things you mentioned. But yeah, so you think about like maybe when you first started to connect with hip hop and some of the drug references that were mentioned back then.
Again, for me, since I was just so into the dance that lyrics were just not overpowering what I wanted to do. So the instrumental was like the key. I mean, we'd listen to Redman, Method Man, you know, Wu-Tang. And I mean, they'd reference weed and smoking and things like that. But, you know, for me, it wasn't, you know, again, I opened up a business, fitness, health, and wellness. That already let you know about my upbringing and what I cared not to do. You know what I mean? And so seeing, you know, how my brother kept me away from those scenes, you know what I mean? I would say the hardest drug that I may have ever tried is mushrooms, you know what I mean? And that's something natural. So I wouldn't even consider that an opioid at that point. But, you know, I stayed away from the Molly. I stayed away from the lean. I stayed away from, you know, the coke and the crack and the methamphetamines. But I had seen, you know, people in my inner circle pass away from methamphetamines. So I've seen what that has done in the dance scene. I can't speak in the music industry. I can't say that the music influenced me in a way that made me want to be cool or think that was it. You know what I mean? I was just, you know, breaking gave me that freedom to be what I wanted and do what I wanted to do. It gave me that wheel. I was the driver. And I wasn't influenced by really anything else that was going on. Again, friends, you know, that I grew up with, you know, gangbangers, selling drugs, you know, into heavy trafficking and just doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. So I'm not a square, but I also knew that I had full ability to say, you know what, I got control of this. I'm not about that. You know, something's about to pop off. I'm good. I mean, I'd rather just say, you know what, something doesn't feel right. You know, I'm paying attention to what's going on. and this is just not for me, you know. So again, for me personally, I can't really speak on music being an influence on opioids in that way, but I saw what it did, you know, to people who were struggling, you know, at their households. That it's just silent struggles, right? Because again, like he mentioned, you know, as a man, you're not supposed to really talk about what's going on, or you're supposed to be putting up on this mask, everything's okay all the time, and that's a burden. That's a huge burden, you know what I mean? And that burden on me weighed heavy, but I was able to dance. I was able to express. I was able to move. I was able to be parts of ciphers. You know what I mean? Whether it was MCs doing their thing and me just nodding my head. You know, whether it was, you know, just us just breaking just because. You know, so again, just that's just opioids for me. I didn't hear like, you know, or really know too much about how crazy it was until like, you know, late 2010s. You know what I mean? 2010s, 2011s, like in that era. That's when like the MCs and the industry really started pushing the opioids down everybody's throat. So in music, that's kind of when I heard it more. You know, my generation, mid 2000s, we're talking about Styles P, The Locks, you know, DMX and all that. You know, rest in peace for DMX, who also, you know, was addicted to drugs and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, that's kind of the timeline and the influences that, you know, I was around and what I saw.
Super powerful. So, yeah, clap it up. Thank you. Man, so one of the things as you were speaking that made me think about how much hip hop influences us, right? And then, but we also have our own autonomy to choose. So sometimes the narrative is, well, because the rappers are rapping about this, it's influencing the kids negatively, and it's like the rapper's fault or hip hop culture's fault that kids are doing what they're doing. Can any of you guys want to speak to that?
So, because, and I'm not gonna say that's not where I'm at today, but I grew up without a father. I grew up with my aunts and uncles. There was a lot of abuse, you know, use your imagination that I went through, you know. And inside my house, you know, that's what happened. But on the outside, they thought we was, you know, this prissy family or whatever, but they didn't know the story that was going on, you know. And so there was never, you know, the leaders that were in there, they were men and they were abusive. So I didn't have no sense of a direction. And if I did any direction, it was all through survival. So music became my best friend. You know, I learned how to play the piano because I was running from pain. You know, I learned how to, you know, read music. Well, I don't know how to read music, but I know how to, you know, hear the song and play it by ear. I know how to do that. You know, but it was through pain. And so, not having a father figure in my life, I was running around trying to figure out who was my father. I remember when my mother first got home, you know, because she abandoned me, you know, and she came with a man. I thought he was my father until we got to the house where they lived at. He started beating on him. And I'm like, oh, hold up, wait a minute. What part of this program came in at? You know, so I never really had any type of real leader. And also, when the influence of the songs came in, I thought that's how life goes. I remember at my 12th birthday, my mother came to me. She said, ask me, what do you want to be? I told her, prior to her asking me that, I seen a movie called Once Upon a Time in America. And there was this kid named Noodles. So I told my mother, you know, I want to be a gangster. Because I didn't have an identity. So music became my identity. So anything and everything that it was about, I needed to be about. I didn't have any sense of direction. I didn't have no purpose. If I did have a purpose, you wrote it for me. You know, that's just where it was for me. You know, today I thank God. He's the author and finisher of my life. You dig? But that's just where I'm at.
No, can we please clap it up for brother? Because listen, man, there's a lot of power in what you said, but just the most important thing for me is the level of vulnerability, bro. Like for you to be able to share that amongst strangers, to me, it's also kind of like what hip hop does, right? Like so like introduces us to different aspects of people's life and their world, right? And kind of literally just teaches people about one, how you started and then how you navigated, you know, as a kid about identity. My relationship with hip hop also related to identity. I definitely had two very strong parents in the home, um, who were, Christian, kind of paint the picture of like that strong Christian morale. And the point where, like, if I played Biggie, if I played Pac, if I played any of the, like, Wu-Tang, they were like, oh no, you gotta cut that off. So I came through with like Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul. I know some of the younger folks are like, who is this? But it's basically like the rappers that are very positive. And still, my parents are like, yeah, we don't do that here. But what it did was it opened me up to their world, right? And gave me a sense of like, oh, to be black can be like this whole sort of different rainbow and range of personalities and interests and things like that. But I wanted to hold space for you too to I don't know if you had anything to add around like the influence of hip hop. Is it, hip hop culture's fault influencing negatively around the opioid, the drug use, or is it more of a personal sort of journey that we go through?
Yeah, you have a question? You mind if I answer real quick? I'll give you a short little answer for this real quick. My son's going to be 12, and I was like, you know what? Let me ask him this question that we're going to be moderating, right? Does hip-hop, affect, opioid use? And his first thing that he said with the stank face was like, no, again. And I'm like, all right, cool. I totally understand where he's coming from, because me, at that age, too, I was like, definitely no, but it's a double-edged sword. Because again, the media is going to put out that, certain rappers are influencing this and what they're saying there. But then again, if we look into rock and roll music and some of the other artists that are not just hip hop, right? They're musicians, right? So again, I look at it like it's a double-edged sword. It could influence and it could help, right? Because I'm on the other side. We have two opposite sides of that spectrum sitting right here to say, yes, it does affect us. But which way is it going to affect you? Make sense?
Yes. You had a question? I appreciate that. What's your name? I'm sorry. Chappella. Thank you, Chappella. So, if I hear you correctly, you're talking about almost like the timeline, right? So when the sort of the birth of hip hop, it came off as positive. We're gonna uplift. We're gonna build. Talked about community, right? Then it sort of transitioned to perhaps like a news report of the community, like a snapshot, and then maybe even became more violent, right? And shifted from the origins of it. Okay, cool. Yeah, did you say you had something?
Yeah, I wanted to say, when I start to look at the whole retrospect into what y'all talking about, there was a part when I talked about, having someone else a direction in my life. I didn't have that growing up. I had to grow up myself. I had to grow up on my own. What was going on in my house, what I learned, if anything, was surviving. Any way necessary, any means necessary. And that was my whole attitude, surviving. Life, period. Anything that came down, I had to survive it. Any type of way, how I had to do it. But if I had somebody to whisper in my ear about what a purpose is, and that I'm not a mistake, I was born on purpose for, maybe, I wanted to win, but I do not. I'm going to say this. I do not regret the road that I did take, because today that we sit here, we can tell the next people that's coming up what we need to do to stop that epidemic to flourish more and more the way it is. Because here I am. I thank God for a community that comes together for a purpose. And it has to be opioid. That's one of them. Put light on it. Somebody told me about what it can be. I heard about it, but on an intimate level, I didn't get that. And so all I had was music. I became a drug dealer because I heard music. Because I didn't have that direction.
Good point, man. And I just want to double down on where we're at with the timeline, right? So we're talking about the origins, the birth of hip hop, what the sort of the message was, and then all the way up to current day. And, the running narrative is like, when we transition from sort of the positive, highlighting the positive aspects of life and also the party element of it, to, I think in maybe the 90s, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but like the early 90s, it became a thing of like the entrepreneurial drug dealer, right? So we're doing this to survive, not necessarily promoting it, but it's all in the music. And then it transitioned to the recreational drug user. So we're no longer looking at this as a sense of, I'm selling to survive. I'm partying, I'm sort of popping pills, I'm doing Molly, all this other stuff. And then we've seen opioids, and we've seen artists dying from opioids. So that timeline, does that kind of sound accurate?
My friends, right, that I grew up with, that I never thought would do drugs. So one time I'm downtown Boston, and I see my dude on the corner that makes good money selling drugs. He's nodding. I'm like, oh, I know that nod. Oh, I go over to him. I said, what's up? He said, yeah, man, excuse me for my, but, this is just where I'm at. And I'm like, oh, damn. So, yeah, I see how that movement went. People that I didn't think that would be doing it, they're doing it. To this day down.
That's just where I'm at. Yeah, so I want to highlight that. When do you think that shift happened? When we started to see or hear a lot more about opioid use in music, in the lyrics? Like you kind of talked about different eras, 2000s, early 2010s. When do we think that shifted?
Well, to help answer a little bit of your question, it's mostly an industry thing, right? We've been exploited since before, Sugar Hill. So I'll start there, right? So they started with what? What was able to get monetized was breaking. Little breakers, let's just throw you anywhere and everywhere, and then guess what? Soul Train comes along and all the extra good stuff, and then boom, let's just, suck it out and then spit it right back out. MCs come along. Boom, that exploitation of MCs. All right, when that positive message wasn't it anymore and we needed to touch a different demographic, boom, comes in the 90s era. We have, NWA as a huge influence of just like kind of that grittiness, you know what I mean? It brings that, and then you have that New York, so you have the grittiness and that gang culture of the West Coast, but then you have we just trying to survive in New York City and in the East Coast, right? So then those music starts to clash. Then we get into the mid 2000s where we have Atlanta coming around where it's just party and bullshit. Excuse my language, but again, that's where we're at though. So if we're talking timeline, then who's in control of this timeline is basically the people with the money behind the scenes. And so where it gets lost in translation is money. Money being that root of all evil, because once you get paid enough to be able to survive, to be able to take care of your family, take care of yourself, and again, knowledge of self, maybe some of them were not really thinking too much about how that would affect other people around them as a whole. Because again, you hear rappers, I just do this for a living. It's not my fault that said person is now using the drugs that I talked about in my lyrics. Right? It goes back to that. We can't sue Eminem for, talking about how he's gonna kill his, ex-wife and drag her through here and throw her in a lake. And that was his first LP. You know what I mean? I listened to those songs, but I never was influenced like that. Like, oh my God, homie's crazy. I'll never, ever do that. Never. But again, so if we talk about the timeline, then we move into the 2010s where now it's recreational. Now it's hip, it's in. This is what you should be doing. Look at what we have in our music video. Now, again, it's misogynistic times 20 because it had gotten there. It was already kind of misogynistic to a certain extent, but then it just skyrocketed in the 2010s, and here we are in 2025, and what's going on? Now we have Travis Scott concerts where people are just kind of going, haywire just to get in to see him, and now people are dying at concerts, and it's no one's talking about it. None of the artists are going to talk about it. And I feel like, personally, it's an industry thing. It's the people that have money behind the scenes who don't care anything about our culture, about our people, that are just using their platform and their money to finance trash.
Thank you for that. Yeah, So, a couple points I want to touch on of what you said. One around opioid use recreationally, sort of the party, that sort of image, but also mental health, right? So we've talked about how hip hop has helped us cope, it's helped us survive in a lot of ways, helped us thrive. Hip hop itself, within the elements, provide tools for coping and really improving our own overall wellness, but mental health as well. And so some people tend to go towards drug use to cope, right? And so we have these artists rapping about it. Travis Scott, one, a little bit, but who are the other artists that you guys know of now, or maybe even in the past, that rapped about drugs in a way of like related to pain and coping with pain? Any artists come to mind? I mean, I can kick it off. I know a few. DMX, thank you. DMX was very gifted in that. I feel like that was nearly his purpose in life. But yep.
So, East Coast, that whole era when that war was going on and all that with the West Coast, I started drawing more close to right after the NWA album. I switched to West Coast, and a lot of the expressions were direct of what I was dealing with, from the gang, from the the houses, the being on the block. You got Snoop Dogg, you got Dr. Dre, you got Corrupt, you got Daz Dillinger. You got a lot of them West Coast, maybe not people not familiar with. That's just who I can identify them talk with. They ain't talk about how to get rich. They talked about the pain that they were dealing with. And that's why. And then they had a nice groove that went through it. Grooves that I remember when I was young. The old school. Especially that Parliament mix. What's his name? George Clinton? That's all they was down. That G-Funk, that'll get up. If you heard some G-Funk right now, even old, it ain't all y'all be getting it in. But it kept me connected. You know what I'm saying? And then I see their drama and what they went through. And then I started catching on, like, what's going on? It's like, wait a minute, I gotta get my act together. Like the Aftermath album. Dr. Dre, tremendous, he's blessed. God brought him along, let him go through a lot of stuff. And look with him now. Is he a billionaire now? Because he owning his own stuff. He's not being, letting people be a puppet. Treat him like he's a puppet. That's why he left the other places. So for me, those are the things that that brought me up and get me. What was the question you say? That influenced me after. Even into the 2000s. I love playing funk music. I love it. I love it. It just you don't even have to hear no words. You're gonna dance. It'll get the crowd moving. I love funk music. I'll play with Spanish. I'll play with anything that because it's just real good music.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think when I was thinking about different artists, DMX for sure. You mentioned Eminem. It's ironic, right? Eminem is now, I don't know how many years clean and sober, right? But he started off Vicodins, perks, talking about all types of stuff in the full circle, right? But yeah, I didn't know if there was any artists that come to mind, maybe even more current artists that you know sort of talk a lot about using opioids to not heal, to cope with pain.
There's a few that have passed away, and I'll name those three. So we named DMX as one of those who have passed away. We have Mac Miller, who is just an amazing musician. Forget about just being a rapper. Like, he could do everything as well. He also succumbed to, opioid, abuse and stuff like that. And then obviously more modern would be like Juice WRLD, also, kind of succumbing to opioid use and things like that and addiction. But I don't listen to modern music because there's no substance in it. So I can't say that I know any artist of this generation now that really, I can't speak on it. I don't listen to it. For me, it doesn't hit. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to feel. Like, again, music would make you kind of relate with what was going on. So listening to the Locks, right? I could relate to some of the stuff, but they wouldn't only talk about just getting money. They would talk about some real things, some real deep, philosophical things that were going on, in their lives as well. So again, music can really either steer you in the right direction or steer you in the wrong direction. So I don't really listen to the music. It's just nothing for me there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
What I'm saying, it costs you your life. Pretty much in the end. It costs you your family. It costs you your character, who you are. I got it in the beginning, I got it going on. But then in the end, look at the cost. Was it worth it? Was it worth it?
So was it a late night on FHTV?
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. What was it all worth, right? At the end of the day. And I think about like we were talking about the survival. I'm thinking about survival mode, right? As a mental health professional, trauma, when we're triggered, we go into that survival mode. Or when we experience trauma, we go into that survival mode by any means necessary, right? I'm gonna survive, I'm gonna get through this moment. And when we spark our thing, our passion, our purpose, and we start to get paid for it, right? We might take that quick little bit, not recognizing the knowledge of self, recognizing like, oh my, I am the bag. Like, I am the person, the thing that can cultivate and make billions. And then we saw Dre, and we also saw we have some other examples on the flip side, like you mentioned, folks who have passed away, but there are some other examples of folks who were able to figure it out, I think, a little bit. And you made a really good point around Dr. Dre and kind of making his own path, right? Not sort of allowing anyone to control or puppeteer him. You had something you wanted to say? Okay.
So I was hearing what you're talking about, man. I had to come to that realization that survival, I don't have to survive. I do not have, man, I thank God for being in my life and giving me it was only maybe a decade ago when I understood what it was to live life. But not just to live it, to enjoy it in the present. Do you get that? I thank God. So the music that's out now, I don't like drill music. I don't like that trap music. I can't identify with it. Very rarely. If you ever see me, my name is Mecca Don Body, DJ. At a party, I'm playing old school. We all dancing in that old school. I'm touching you. Even the ladies, they be like, might as well get up and go on with it. There's nothing to be shy about. So, but that's enjoying life. But I had to come to that realization. And I told you before, I don't regret what I just went through. That pain, that shame, that guilt, it was all for a purpose. And I thank God that I'm able to come here today and sit on this piano to identify what I've been through and tell somebody else, you don't got to do all that. It is possible to live a life of justice and peace and law-abiding citizen and all that stuff you was talking about, own your own business. It's possible. All you gotta do is just face life on life's terms, man, and roll with the punches. We got community centers that will support anything you do. You know what? I went to this. I'm sorry. I went to this recent. What is it called? Recovery. Restoration Recovery Center. I walked in there. The only reason why I walked in there, I just wanted to get a shower. They said, well, you don't got no shower, but you want something to eat. And I put my foot up. They was like, hold on, what are you doing? This is not a place for you to get comfortable at. And these people showed me how to live life. And know what they said? All you got to do is surrender. That's all you got to do is surrender. And so when I look at the opioid, all that stuff like that, time has changed. It went past me. But that's not the way I'm going. That's not the way I'm going. The way I'm going is for a better future. So all that other stuff on the joke side, come on in. I'll tell you a whole different story that you can live. A whole different one. This opioid stuff that's going on is going to continue. It's going to even get worse. That as a community coming together like this, that's the best we can do about it. To show that we care. You know? Having people like this that ask his son. He's including his son in his life. Talk to your family members. Bring them closer to you. Be intimate. Have those intimate talks, those tough talks. I didn't get that. But now, me and my son, he adores me. He calls me just out of the break of day. Daddy, I love you. He's 38 years old and he just treats me like, you know, he's 7 years old. Hanging on me. Right, there you go. You know, so I mean, that's just where I'm at today, man. I'm loving life, man.
Appreciate you, man. That's a perfect, that's really where I was going with the next thing. Because I know we're running out of time a little bit, and you tipped it off really well. Just thinking about what ways, and you already do this, but maybe even reiterating it, but what ways we can use hip hop to heal, sort of moving forward, right? We know we talked about the genesis of it, and that's really what it was designed for. You know, we've been blessed enough to make some money off of it and really monetize, but just telling folks what ways we can use hip hop moving forward to help heal and cultivate wellness.
Yeah, mainly leading by example, right? So it's like, you know, creating events such as these, right? Where we can bring our families to attend, where we have vendors here who are not also just hip hop practitioners, but they're also living that life, you know, to be better. Not only for themselves, but for the people around them, for the kids, for their own kids, for their own family, but also for the community. You know what I mean? Again, fitness, health, and wellness, right? That's Style Effects, my business. It's built around fitness, health, and wellness, meeting the artistry of the culture of hip hop. So we talk about all the different elements, we talk about hip hop history, and we really dig deep into the culture, because the culture has a lot of negativity that it was kind of bred out of, right? If we think about the Bronx burning, think about that. You know, what does that look like if we looked around here and buildings are just burning, you know, for you know, landlords to collect $150,000 and say, you know what, I'm out of here. Screw it. I don't care about nobody here but myself. What does that look like? I don't know what that looks like. I only know based off of research, based off of really digging deep when I needed to dig deep into the culture that I love so much. I was, you know, influenced by dance. So I didn't know jack about the culture. I only knew how to get down, how to boogie, and how to take whatever pain and suffering that was going on in my life and put it to the floor. And if need be, hands could catch faces. You know why? Because I was going through so much behind the scenes that people didn't really know about, or they didn't respect, because of the fact that you came, you know, chill, very modest and humble, real quiet and low key, right? So again, the best way I can answer that is just continue to build off of events like these, right? Where you don't have to pay to come here. It's free to get that knowledge.
Beautiful, thank you. That was perfect, man. Yeah, I mean, the knowledge of self. So you talked about history too, which I really got. So knowing your history, right, it helps you move forward, but it also gives you that knowledge of self to know you're capable of doing anything if you really grind and put your mind and heart to it, right? Without the knowledge of self, especially for our kids, we kind of like all over the place, right? You kind of spoke on it a little bit, like without that foundation, man, it's hard to navigate. But spaces like yours and the work that you do, you know, it really helps folks find themselves in a real way. So Couldn't agree more with what you said, and appreciate you guys for your time. I don't know if we have any other like comments or questions. Perfect. All right, you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much. And Seth, I'm gonna turn it over to you, homeboy. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for participating and being a part of what we got going on here today. We're setting up for our next panel, which is going to be a panel discussion on how to navigate the music industry. I want to bring up our panelists. We're going to start with Brandon Bedlam Matthews. Brandon has been around for over 2, maybe 3 decades almost. 2 decades. Brandon was one of the first original people that were a part of a street team that used to put up posters all over the city when you wanted to see any artist. This is where they started with Brandon, and actually AKA Bedlam is what a lot of people may know him as. And when I say, oh, here goes Brandon, oh, you mean Bedlam. That's the third person who told me that, 1 female and 2 cats. So he has established a reputation from then till now into the digital world, where he has done so much for so many, but so little you would even imagine that he takes from people. So we want to make sure that we big Bedlam up, Brandon Matthews. We next have, I'm gonna give you his official name that I give him, the Prince of the City. DJ E Double is a remarkable talent that's been around for over 2 decades himself. He's a DJ that had relationships with everybody from Pitbull. If y'all remember DJ E Double doing the Pitbull mixtapes, he was one of the cats that was doing it big then, and he's still doing it big now with Jammin' 94.5 FM. That is actually one of the bigger things that he touches
in this area. He touches everybody so well that he connected to one of the aspirations of Massachusetts, Mr. Joyner Lucas, and he's his tour DJ. So this is the remarkable talent that we have here today and that we want to make sure that you guys get exposure to. So give yourselves a round of applause and thank you guys for being here today. All right. What we're going to do is start off with questions about a little bit about their backgrounds so you could get an introduction to them as well as an opportunity to share, because we got a lot of information that these guys have and we want to make sure you guys get a piece of it. All right, we're going to start with you, B. Brendan Bedlam. When you first got introduced to this thing called hip hop, where were you and what were you doing?
It's a crazy question. So my mom put me on hip hop. She allowed me to listen to the Ice Cubes and NWAs and a lot of different things. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri. So, we were in an area which wasn't too welcoming to a lot of black culture. So she wanted to make sure that I was deeply ingrained in it. So, being around former members of the Black Panthers and stuff like that, I really resonated with a lot of hip hop early. And I got introduced to music, not even just on the hip hop side, just like Michael Jackson was my first concert. So, I fell in love with music then, and then I just started to explore after that. And then pretty much whatever I had access to, being in Missouri was a little limited in regards to what I had access to. But whatever I could get from Street Side Records or any of the record stores, she allowed me to go get, obviously, clean versions, but I still was able to go and listen to everything because that was the music that talked about our people.
All right, now you, E-Double, what was your beginning of this thing called hip hop like, and what was you exposed to?
I was just in front of the TV and in front of the boombox. Yo MTV Raps, 88.9 at night, even VH1. I don't even think it was 94.5. I think it was WZOU. So even 91.3, which is Fitchburg State College, which I actually did with Cedric because we had a radio show for a quick second. But that and my mother. My mother exposed me to
Big up to Miss Wendy out there.
From Cameo to Prince to Rick James to Eazy-E. So you see,
pretty eclectic.
We went to go see Juice as a family.
Wow.
So it's that type of stuff. So, like hip hop this is all I know. So this is it.
And this is a wonderful feeling because the opportunities that you have created for others basically started with opportunities that were given to you, or maybe not given, that you earned. He wants to say something. He give him the mic. He's reaching for the mic.
There were a lot of opportunities. There were more opportunities that I had than the people have today because the resources are less. But I still try to make sure that I'm able to help people when it's deserved and earned at the same time. We're not just going to hand them out just to anybody. Everybody doesn't get a trophy, but if you're working sternly and you're going hard and you're dedicated, then it's only right to reward that effort with exposure or whatever we can give it as far as resources.
And that's what's up. And the same thing with B. Bedlam. He probably gives out more than he receives because it's knowledge based. You know what I mean? And there's things that people probably can school him, but he could definitely school a lot of people. Now, talk a little bit about your knowledge tree. Who have you given some knowledge to that they have sprouted up, that they have taken your knowledge and done something with it?
I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with a lot of different people. I have to say that I've had an internship program with Emerson and a few other colleges since 2008. So I have to say that if there's anyone that I can say that we've given the most knowledge to that have gotten successful, careers in music, would be through that. It's like, really giving opportunities to the students who are looking for, understanding of how things are, the type of work that goes into it, and, you know, we've had a lot of people who come from under our internship program that have gotten and created really great careers for themselves. So I kind of lean more on that than just giving the information. It's like people who come in, got the information, but also work for it too.
Right. And that's one of the things that's the thread here, that this is like a workers' co-op. We're workers over here. We're still putting in work. And the rewards are coming from the workers, whoever receives it. Now, one of the things that, you know, that keeps coming up and keeps capitalizing is opportunities. You know, if we can share an opportunity that you specifically know you gave, E-Dub.
Well, I want to piggyback off of Brandon or Bedlam, whatever you want to call it. I first met Brandon face to face when he was doing Cassidy's "I'm a Hustler" promo. It was at a
How long ago was that? Yeah, how long ago was that?
Celebrity basketball game.
Yep, I remember.
We was at a hotel. And when I went out there and I seen him, like, damn, he's really like promoting, he's doing this. Like, I told him, I want to bring what you're doing back to where I am. So it was just, and that wasn't the DJing part, that wasn't the anything. It was like, no, this feeling needs to be where I'm at. So, and we always kept that relationship, always been good. And even that brought me to the point where I'm actually on radio. He's the one that introduced me to Puff Dog, which inevitably led to an internship and led to where I'm at now. So he gave me the opportunity, so I can say that with him, and I thank him for that. But in addition to that, who haven't? I mean, and this isn't something that I've done. It's something I continue to do. So even down to Joyner, gave him a whole bunch of game, and we consistently do that. That's a relationship. To Millie's, countless DJs. It's something that we want to pay forward, but we also need to make sure that we're not wasting our time with the person that we pay it forward with. A lot of people sit there and have a conversation with you till you're blue in the face, and all they really want you to do is do something for them or provide something for them. When you give them game and it comes in the form of opportunity or work, now they don't want to do it. So that's the problem.
Now we have solutions to these problems, because obviously there's some, relationships. Joiner's one. Bedlam, he just, you know what? I'm going to talk about one of the relationships Bedlam has with the cannabis industry. This guy right here can bring together 20 to 30 dispensary-orientated, cannabis-orientated, and put them in, what was that, the Roxy Hotel? What's that, the hotel that's next, is that the Roxy?
Oh, Moxie.
The Moxie.
Yeah.
The Moxie. This, talk about the relationships and how you grew the seed of that in the cannabis world to where you're like the go-to guy in regards to cannabis.
I mean, I guess my role with them is just a little different. My company we will work with any industry. We don't really care. We started in music, but every business needs marketing. So we try to just offer them opportunities to be in places that, they're not necessarily with their peers, and they can actually go and engage consumers. So when we started building novelty events for cannabis brands, it was really about just getting them out of their way and putting them in different spaces. As we all probably know, a lot of the cannabis industry hasn't had a lot of opportunities to engage with Black and brown in particular. So we build those rooms. I'm not going to rely on somebody who doesn't know how to go into that space. No, you just can come and work with us, and we'll find a different way. So, we've gone from working with, brands statewide to now we're bringing in, companies from across the country to come and do stuff. You know what I mean? Because they're all seeing, that they want to just do different things. So for us, we just want to continue to give them opportunities to, if they're going to spend money in a way that actually makes you money, and also engage with communities that need to be engaged with. So that's really been our big thing with them.
Now, E-Dub, what are some of the non-traditional outlets that you have touched that doesn't maybe pertain to just music? I see you got those fly kicks on, so, I don't want to talk about your hat game either, but there's some things that you do outside of this thing called hip-hop that may include this thing called hip-hop that's not traditional.
Big on the mental health space. And that's just something I personally took on myself. Nobody pushed me in that direction. That's something that I felt that I dealt with myself, so I can advocate for it, so I can lean in and help others. And that's beyond hip hop. That's just life. So, but hip hop does afford me to have a certain platform that allows me to reach a certain group of people who won't, who may not speak on these things. So it allows me to go ahead and do so. So I'm 100% thankful for that, and definitely want to do more outreach though for the youth.
Okay.
For anybody, but the youth in particular, because that's the future. And if I can help change some patterns, I'd rather start them, when they're young, so I can prevent the problems or whatever is going to happen later on in the future.
That's what's up, man. And yeah, if you want to clap it up, clap it up. You know what I mean? We don't hold back the claps. You can give up the claps. We don't tell you to hold them down. But this is one of the things that this thing is about. This Hip Hop Health Summit is going to touch upon things that are related to this thing called hip hop and health. Today's opportunity was hip hop, opioids. How does hip hop affect opioids? And then this one is how to navigate the music industry in a healthy way to make these relationships beneficial, not just on one side, but on all sides. And then hopefully we'll get to talk about hip hop and mental health. How does those things connect?
Well, actually, you know what? I do not want to interrupt you, but those things that you just mentioned all go hand in hand, because in hip hop they're glorifying the use of opioids until it's all fun and games until it's somebody that you know or love that's being affected by it. And that's when it's nothing to glorify. It's somebody, and now they're messing around, they're crossing the pills, doing all type of other stuff. So it's more of a crap shot now to go ahead and gamble to take a pill for a feeling.
Yeah.
And the real thing is you're running from something. So like I said, that's the opiate. So really it's a mental thing that you're trying to run from, or an emotional thing that you're trying to run from. So if you really got to the root of it, you wouldn't have to lean on those pills. So that's the real thing that we gotta get to the root of.
Does anybody want to chime in, and I'll pass the mic around? I mean, if there's anybody over there that has something to say, maybe, I don't know.
I wanted to say to you that I totally identify with what you're talking about. In terms of when we want to run away from stuff, we tend to go to a drug or to a drink or something. Even it may not be a drug, it may be sex or anything that will take us away from that. So I agree. And I believe mental health is very, very important. And I'm just going to be open and honest. I was running for years, for 11, 12 years, because I was a cocaine and alcohol addict. I had an addiction for 11 years. So I was running from some pains that happened in my life years ago. And I didn't want to face it. That's really what it was. Or when I thought about it, it hurt too much. So I was covering the pain up. But once I realized that, because it wasn't worth it, because where my life was going, it was coming all the way down. That's how I ended up here. I was like, you know what? I need my mental health more than anything. Even though I don't do hip hop, but it's still mental health, regardless of whatever you're doing, whatever you're running from. It's very important. I just made a statement.
Well, first and foremost, I'm glad that you faced it. You got to the root of it, and you're here. So that was 11 years that you overcame it. Because a lot of people don't understand how difficult it is, or how difficult it was for you to get there, and difficult it is to remain there. Because but when you got to the root of it, you're like, okay, so I don't need to lean on this no more. I didn't need that crutch no more. And for myself, like, I never drank nor smoked. And it didn't come from trauma. It just wasn't anything that I wanted to do. And I was just so locked in on goals that I knew that was going to take me off the path of my goal. And I just wasn't willing to sacrifice that. But I don't judge anybody. I have friends I got family members. I have, like, the person who's the closest to being a father figure is actively using right now. And when I see him, it hurts me. But I can only be there to support him. And I can hope and I can pray and do everything that I can do to make sure that I'm there for him the same way that he was there for me. So it's a difficult thing that we face as people. And every family has, somewhere down the line, you got somebody that's using. It's just, do the people suppress that person and disregard that person? Or do they acknowledge that person and try to help that person?
I just want to say one thing. The whole thing is, no, I don't have to. Okay. So what I wanted to say about that, in terms of, how you just said, to recognize it, so many people will not, or they don't think there's an issue or a problem. And I think that's I think a lot of people are like that. They don't recognize that there's an issue, or they took that pain and they put it way down somewhere else, until something touches it and it brings it back up. So they really don't get healed from it and don't understand that they need some kind of mental help in terms of dealing with whatever they had to deal with. So you see, y'all talk.
I got you. What doesn't come out in the wash is gonna come out in the rinse. So you can suppress it only for so long. It's gonna come back, and the worst thing you can do is suppress it. And within our community, I'm pretty sure that therapy wasn't something that was spoken about often. If it was therapy, it was physical therapy, and I don't think we could afford that either. But for therapy for our minds, that's something that was never really explored. So for us to break that cycle and to provide that going forward, I think it's gonna create a better future for people as a whole. But I'm just glad that people in our community are starting to take heed to these resources that we have.
So I give James credit. There was a time, and I get too personal. There was a time where, people was really, really expressing how we need to really think about our mental health online. And it was pre-pandemic. A lot of things were going on. He was going through some personal things, and I actually got into going to therapy because of watching him go through it. Because, especially in music, we're in hustle culture. It's always go, 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 go. I work with corporations. I work for all these different companies. In my head, it was always just go to the next one. Let's do this one, that's and the third. I didn't sit back and prioritize my mental health until he put it on me. And I owe a lot to that because, at that point, leading up to that, I never knew separating my personal life from work. It was always, what's the next promo? What's the next one? I learned, and it was perfect timing because I was getting ready to become a father, and I finally learned how to slow down and actually go and get a therapist and go and actually talk about the things that were going on with me, because navigating all these different spaces and all these different personalities and things like that, when, especially for me having a service business, I would take on some of the stress from some of my clients, in regards to the things that they were going through with their careers and stuff. And it wasn't until I saw how much of a benefit it was for him that I even prioritized it. And I have to thank you for that, because, I wouldn't know how to prioritize probably a lot of these things that I have to deal with, just life, because that's something that's not ingrained in our culture. We just now started talking about mental health and providing support for each other, and now all of a sudden it's not man up and just deal with it. Now it's a conversation that we can have where we can be vulnerable, and it's also helped me now communicate with my son better too, because now I can help him process his emotions and feelings. So I do feel like these conversations, as much as they're uncomfortable, they're really impactful, because now we can start improving the traumas for our kids and for the youth and stuff, for the things that they have to deal with every single day. So I appreciate the fact that you were brave about that, man, because a lot of people in our space, they don't identify with their problems, and they don't try to put other people on in regards to things that will really benefit them. Now we're getting healthy. Now we're physically, doing better, but that wasn't a thing, 10 years ago. So I appreciate that. It's needed.
That the mental health thing, like me myself, like I got to the root of it. I'm a workaholic. People say, "Oh, you're working." I would be at the station like 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's times that I don't leave the station till about 10 o'clock at night. So obviously, I didn't get enough rest. I just knew work, but that was just to get away from other things. But then I got to the root of it when I went to the therapy, and that came from abandonment. So then I'll overextend myself. I'll stay in situations that I probably should have got out of. And just working, and I seen my mother and my grandmother, they worked to provide. So all I knew was work hard. And then I get into hip hop, where actually before hip hop, playing basketball, they say always be practicing, because when you don't practice, your opponent is practicing. So it just conditioned me to just keep going. Then from there, I got into DJing, putting out mixtapes. If I wanted to keep, being productive and getting money, I had to keep on putting them out, because when I slept, somebody else put out one. So it's like I had to keep on doing this. Then I get into, the radio thing. They love a workhorse. So now I'm being rewarded for things, but these are actually kind of productive to who I am as a person. So it's like I'll go into work, I'm praised for this, but when I leave work, I got to take all that off and then go become who I am.
With that said, I just wanted to say that sometimes we have to go back and have to evaluate what we have been taught, and especially in our culture, because they said so. Because grandma worked that way, mom that way, so I have to do the same thing. Or because they told me this, they said this is the way it was. And I learned that I have to go back and I have to evaluate some of those things that I've been taught, because sometimes it wasn't right. It wasn't correct. And you said, well, why was we told that? I don't know. You ask somebody, I don't know. That's what they told us. It wasn't right, and that affects us mentally, because we may be like, well, this ain't right, but okay, this is what we're supposed to do, and that's what you made me think of, Michael.
And I'll say that I'm fortunate to be able to have my mother and my grandmother in my life, and still a sound mind and body and everything. So things that I've been able to identify, I feel like I'm able to stop, but I'm also able to heal upwards with 2 generations because I still have access to them. So it's a beautiful thing to unlearn and relearn the appropriate way. And it's difficult to unwire a car. If you just wired it right the first time, it'd been better, but to unwire it, then rewire it, then it becomes a little bit more difficult.
Yes, this is a great conversation. And thank you to everybody that is participating. One of the things that I kind of hear is something about the accountability of this thing called hip hop. The accountability of just what we have to do to go forward is sometimes recognizing that there's some accountability issues, and sometimes not with others, but within ourselves. Now, you kind of jumped into it and took on the accountability part yourself about acknowledging the mental health thing and in that space. But was there any instances when there was a financial hiccup and the accountability had to be weighed and it didn't go in your favor? That there was something that went on, either one of you, that somehow the finances didn't reward the output that you did to achieve or to go for the goal that was supposed to happen?
I mean, I think that's always going to be a thing for certain things, especially like at least for me on the service side. I had to scale back on some of the things I was doing a few years ago because it was a lot more hustle and a lot less financial. And as we were wanting to elevate not only the type of clientele that we were working with, it was also just the amount of stress that comes with it. I don't think we think about the stress that comes from it. Yeah, it's a check, but how much stress comes with it versus what you actually leave with. And so, we kind of fell back from doing, some of our indie accounts and stuff like that to focus on corporate. Because for me, I was looking at it as, hey, I'm going to be stressed out. I might as well be well paid for it. You know what I mean? And not have to worry about whether I can feed my son or not because, they're going to handle it. And to be honest, it ended up being a great thing because, we doubled our prices and we started to work with these other brands, and they didn't want 90% of what, the guys who weren't going to pay, you know what I mean? Like, this year alone, we've done Embrace, Bank of America, and, the Esplanade, which are crazy companies to even for me to even think that I'll do work with. But, most of the companies that provide the most stress would never even think about paying out that much money. So I think it really is just a matter of what you're getting your hands on. Like when you're in your early days, you want to take everything because you're building your reputation and you want to create a stable model of being able to, not only pay your bills, but if you're launching a company, you want to make sure everything is sustainable. But after a while, when you've been in it for a while, which was something that we had to learn, is not all money is good money. And that's really what it is. It's a situation of, if I know that X amount of things are going to come from here, then these are the things that I require. And if I can't get those, then this might not be something for me. So it was really just learning that I need to put myself in the right places and put the people around me in the right places and not just chase everything that's out there because, not everybody's going to think about you the way you're going to think about them. We sometimes expect ourselves out of others. And that's just very unrealistic because they're not raised like you, they don't think like you, and to be honest, they may not prioritize your livelihood the same way they do theirs. So, And I think that was the biggest thing for me.
I've helped people countless times, and I ended up taking a loss. So I took on somebody else's loss, which I was better off. With the time alone, forget about the effort and the money. With the time alone, I was better off going to sleep with my time than to go ahead and give it to somebody else who disregarded the efforts and everything that I placed forward, and now ended up losing. So with that, it just made me prioritize myself. This is an ongoing thing, because being a selfless person, the only person who knows a good giver, the best giver, is a even better taker. And they will continue to bleed you dry as much as they can, and they won't feel any regards to it. So it's just to growing in discernment of who's worthy of the time and effort is what I'm focused on now.
Go ahead.
I guess it's more so to me when I think about that. When he asked the question initially was, what was my why? What was I doing it for? Why was I doing it? And I'm just gonna say for myself, I'm an independent gospel artist. That's what I am. And at first, you thinking about, okay, I want to get on that platform and I want to make money and blah blah blah, but I still want to spread God's word. But then I have to realize, what is my real why? Because initially my why I was singing it is because I wanted to touch the lives of people and make a difference and make a change. That's what it was. So I was like saying to myself, when you guys were talking, I was like, initially was your why? What was you doing it for? And why were you doing it? And sometimes, and a lot of times, your why is going to be, I was doing it because I'm doing it for the purpose that I know that God has called me for. And sometimes it's not all about the money, for me. And, I had to realize that I'm not doing it for the money anymore. I'm doing it because I need to reach somebody who's saying that, they have no more hope. And when I sing to them, it'll give them some hope. So I had to realize my why was, because you could be disappointed because it's not coming out the way that you wanted it to come out. Because your path may not be that you're going to make all this money and do all of this, So your path may be just as what you're doing right now, which I believe that's what you're called.
Yeah. Check. All right. The why. Yeah, I understand why. Well, first and foremost, I was driven by passion. Hip hop was just love. It's something that when people say like, how'd you learn how to DJ? I looked at the turntables and I seen what was going on. I understood the concept. I didn't have to be taught it. I just needed the equipment. Then when I got the equipment, I was out. Nobody taught me how to do whatever. Like there's a thing called BPM, is beats per minute, when you're mixing together. I saw that later on in life when I got a laptop and DJ. I knew everything from my mind. I knew what can mix with what. So I was just so submerged in just in the music. Passion got me here. But in the recent, I kind of, not to say that I feel like I'm stalling out, I just feel like things aren't moving as fast as I would like them to. So this is why I stopped. I'm like, all right, it's time to go for purpose. And that's why it's more so for the future.
Right.
It's not about me anymore. Right. It's about the people around me. Like what I do, like I don't want for much. Like give me a wife and kid. Check. Check, yeah. It's low, that's what it is. So outside of that, I mean, if you can hear me. Yeah,
Yeah.
Check. So outside of that, it's like, I don't want for much. Seeing that you're... Check it. If it goes out, I'll just use my regular one. You saying that you're an independent gospel artist. So you know that this is last shall be first and first shall be last. So what you can do is you can store so many things down here on earth, but you'll be wealthy here on earth. But at the same time, they say it'll be as difficult as a wealthy man to get into heaven as it is for a camel to get through a needle eye. So with that being said is, I can get everything down here. I can have every car, I can have every house, I can have everything. But when it comes time to trying to get into heaven, I'm not gonna make it. So you'll be chasing the wrong thing here. And you'll think that you had it. There's no VIP, there's no wealthy line to get into heaven. So that's why I stalled out. I feel like, I haven't lost my platform. Right. So the simple fact that I haven't lost my platform still lets me know that he's allowed me to keep this. So now I just gotta shift the gears the right way. And that's exactly why I stepped away from nightlife over a year ago. I didn't announce it. I didn't care to announce it. It wasn't something that I felt like I needed to let the people know. It was something different. So I'll do day parties, I'll do brunches, and I'll do events. I don't care if like I said, I don't drink and I don't smoke. So if I'm somebody who people look up to or look at regardless, don't worry, take your time. So with that being said, is like if I'm a leader, I didn't sign up to be a leader, but naturally people around me see a leader in me. So with that being said, I know how to move the appropriate way, and I can be the example that they need to see. So with that, you know, I speak to people when it comes to mental health, physical health, whatever. I care about people in general, and that came from really my grandmother. My grandmother did foster care before I was even born. And we just celebrated her 81st birthday, and the one thing she said, the first thing she said was, I love people. So that was ingrained in me, and it came from her. And it just all goes hand in hand with like the why. That was my why, but my why has switched. I caught to be 100% honest, the dreams that I set out for myself. I wanted to be in a club, I wanted to be on radio, and I wanted to have mixtapes. I caught those dreams in my 20s, a long time ago. So I was in uncharted territory. I never thought that I was going to be on tour. I never wanted to. That was never anything I wanted to do. But that was a relationship, a seed that was set in motion way earlier. We kept our word to each other, and now that's where I am. So I'm in uncharted territory now, and I realize that. But now it's like, okay, you die when you stop dreaming. So now it's just time to dream another dream. So that's when I'm going my purpose.
I'm telling you right now, walk in your purpose.
I used to say my why is a little different. My why was my son. Before I had my son, I had some really strong feelings about the father I wanted to be versus the father I was allowed to be. So I changed up a lot of my lifestyle to make sure that I gave him more than enough time for anything. I base my schedule around him, I do everything around him, and I also realize that what he sees me doing, what he sees me around, and what he sees me doing to myself is all gonna bleed on him. So all the changes in my life had to happen so that he didn't have to worry about any of that. I watched my mother work 3 jobs, and you know, there's a lot of things that came from that. I understand she was a provider, but I wanted to make sure that I had adequate time to be there so that as he grows up, my dad was at this, my dad was at that. He had an active role in my life. So even down to cutting certain environments out of my life, you know, pulling my business away from certain environments. Anything that doesn't work for him doesn't work for me. And that was really, realistically, the biggest why of my life is that, you know, at some point he's going to see these things as he gets older. My son, you know, is now 8, so he understands, you know, what I'm around, whether it's client or not. And so I just wanted to make sure I wanted to create a better environment for him to grow up in, but also to see me, you know, living in my passion every day too. You know, he doesn't see me just going to work every day and going to a job I can't stand and being in a place that's miserable. He goes to a place that I pay all the bills, and everyone else that works there is happy, and they're able to go and do the things that they want to do. And he sees me putting together things that I want to do, and he now sees it as whatever I want to do when I grow up, I can do. I have one to support, but also I don't have to just go get a 9 to 5. If I want to go build something, I can, and that was really important for me.
Yeah, he's very much present. Sometimes I call him, and his son is running the show. He's up, gotta go get him. It's his son and the dog. Yep. That's what it is. But I applaud you, B, for being present. A lot of us didn't have that, and that's another thing. That's what makes us go so hard to be what we didn't have. And the generation before us would say, you know, they didn't have it, so it's okay to pass it on. No, that's not right, because you know what it felt like. So why would you pass that on? So that's another reason that why I go hard, and is to be that leader. I got god kids. I don't have any children of my own yet, but for my god kids, like he told me, he said he respects me, and that meant so much to me because he knows that I'm there for him and I always will be there.
one of the things that we have morphed from was an instrument called Napster. Napster came into the music industry and did some stuff to some people. We're doing our 30th anniversary this year, right? So I went back, I was like, let me go check these emails from when I was sending playlists to different record companies and seeing who was still there. None of them. A lot of them got the bump back when the email returns because that person, the job is gone.
Most of them are gone.
Right. So
Most of the labels are gone.
that too. I was like, remember this label? Zomba, TVT? Like,
Oh, man.
that if you understand the record labels in the industry, those names, gone. Right? But you guys have been through that. Y'all were here before Napster, and y'all are here after
That's
Napster.
when I started, actually.
So let's talk about that era of Napster and that change to this digital platforms that we talk about.
Oh man, Napster. I don't look at Napster as necessarily a bad thing. It was just the early, us learning that digital world was coming. So when I first started, I got my first internship in 2002, and so we were still using vinyl. I was still servicing DJs with vinyl. I would show up to clubs with 2 boxes of records to make sure I saved all these guys money because vinyl's not cheap. You know what I mean? And that was how I was able to start building my relationships. But I knew that the world was going to change. We were fighting over you couldn't send emails to certain label reps because they didn't want digital downloads, and they were trying all the things. But that was an era where that people needed to figure out that world was coming whether we liked it or not. Because from Napster we went to iTunes. When the iPod came out, it changed the game. When MP3s came in, it changed the game. And the people who didn't move with technology got left behind. You know what I mean? Even now we're dealing with that. The people who haven't learned how to navigate streaming and learn how to navigate direct-to-consumer sales, they're going to get left behind because technology moves faster than it ever has. And so we have to pay attention to it. We can't be scared of it. You know what I mean? And from back then, there was a lot of companies that we were able to see, that weren't able to keep up with it. Look at the record stores. The only record store, at least in Boston where I was living at the time, has all the record stores closed, the Funky Freshes, the Mattapan Musics, and all of those. You know what I mean? The only store that stayed afloat was Underground Hip Hop because they were the only ones who adopted, doing both physical sales and digital sales. So it was really like a learning curve for a lot of people. It was like, all right, which one do I want to do? It's like, well, you got to kind of cater to both because there's still a lot of people, even now in 2025, vinyl is up 81%. How are we not thinking about old platforms? I'm watching indie artists bringing back tapes with thumb drives in them, and people are buying CDs again. We can't even play a CD anywhere, but that nostalgia is here. So we just have to pay attention to the mediums and who's engaging with them instead of just turning our nose up at them because I understand we don't know a lot of things or we don't get comfortable with a lot of things, but I don't think any of us thought we were going to see vinyl again. There was a time where people just stopped having record players at home. Now, if you don't have a record player at home, you look crazy. You know what I mean? Because they sell them in Urban Outfitters. You can get a T-shirt. Yeah, exactly. Any store you go to has some version of a record player that it's a decoration in someone's house. It's not, they're not trying to be DJs, but it's just part of what it is. I have an intern. She's 22. She goes out and gets vinyl all the time. She has no interest in being a DJ, but her and her friends sit around and play records all the time. So that's just, I guess, where it's at.
There's a good side and a bad side to it. My personal experience, I use Kazaa. I didn't do that Napster thing, and I did that with 56K. So it took forever to download this thing. But for me, it was, as soon as I got that, it was all right, let me go get the songs that I never had on vinyl, the songs that I always wanted to have. So I always wanted 8-Ball and MJG just like Candy, but I didn't want to go pay for that Suave House album that I only knew that one song on it. So that was the first thing I downloaded. Then it was Smells Like Teen Spirit, because I didn't even know where to find a vinyl for that. So as a DJ, I loved it. And then I was trying to find all the music at the same time, but like trying to find at that time, the G Unit freestyles. That was there. You played them in a club up here and it was ringing off. But you couldn't find them on vinyl all the time. Every now and then you get lucky, you go on Newberry Comics, you find a white label. But if I get on
Tell them
somebody's
what a white label is.
So a white label is just like, it's two things. It's an advance. It's like you get it first before anybody else gets it. Or it's just a bootleg. So it's like something that you're not supposed to have, but somebody found a way to put this out and get it to you, and you might have to. The better thing was they could stack a whole bunch of exclusives on it. So you'll have 8 songs that you need for the club right then on one piece of vinyl, which that was clutch. So, but at the same time, being with Joyner, we were like one of the last people passing out physical CDs for promo. We had boxes, even B was passing them out. So this whole story is crazy because I'm born and raised right here in Fitchburg. B, as you can see, he's from the Midwest, and Seth is from. He's been in Fitchburg longer than he was in Brooklyn, so he's from Fitchburg. All right, so he ain't gonna deny it. But his daughter's name is Brooklyn. So, but we're all intertwined some way, somehow. I remember the first time I was trying to get into a record. He told me what a record pool was. I didn't know what it was, and he told me to reach out to. What was your dude's name? James something? He was
Woo Bear.
James Woo Bear, yeah.
Woo Bear.
So, so this is to show you how far back this thing goes. And from there, I think I went to, there was a hip hop summit, Black Eyed Peas, Davey D, and
Brownstone, maybe.
KRS One. And Red Alert.
Okay.
So after, right, because you had told me about a record pool, I meet Red Alert, and I'm like, yo, how do I get into a record pool or something like that? And he said, I was so angry when he gave me this answer because it wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I needed. He said, if it's in your heart, you'll find out. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with that? So he making you work. I was like, yeah, what am I supposed to do with that? But now I understand how to pass that on to the next generation because everybody just wants somebody to do exactly what they asked for. Yeah. And like, if it's disguised as work, nobody wants to do it. Yeah. But this is something that I really do, that I really love, and I did it just like that. So
that's what's up. One of the things that industry, that Napster created was a whole new industry. I was looking at some old stuff, and I remember B. Bedlam, he had a thing where he brought DOS effects out here. And they were on the street rhyming, freestyling, right? But they had this background, B is doing his Bedlam thing. It's great footage. One of the things that did come out of this is or maybe have been removed, is the connectivity with the street. The idea to actually do something like this, a seminar or an opportunity for people to interact with one another just off the strength of this thing called hip hop. How has your maturation, your maturity in this thing got to the point where you now do so many of these curated events, both of you guys, where you are connected, maybe not to the physical street, but now they're coming up to your offices. Now you are impacting people at that level, bringing them up to y'all level, because I mean, it's not the street team level. B's office is in the city that defines the economic base of Massachusetts. And he's in it. You know, not the poor part. He gets service on his train line all the time. So talk about your maturing from that street DOS effects. You know, we was out in the street doing freestyles at 2 in the morning. Now they're in your office. Yeah. Now they're in a safe space that they can do things. Talk a little bit about that.
So I think for me, it's now about creating spaces that I wish I had when I was younger. We're still in the streets. Let's never you know, we're always going to be in the streets. I don't feel that any company, you know, I deal with digital agencies all the time. I deal with outdoor agencies all the time. I'm obnoxiously aggressive when it comes to marketing, like obnoxiously aggressive. So we're never going to leave the streets. But one thing that I wish that we had was more of like the things that we had when I was younger. So that's crazy that y'all bring out Boo Bear, because he used to do those meetups where we bring the DJs out and stuff like that. And that was the reason I actually even started doing DJ mixers, was because I used to see the community that he built within like Worcester and a lot of those things, and guys who would travel all the way out there. And, you know, for most of us, we typically don't leave our areas sometimes. You know, people who are in Lawrence stay in Lawrence, Worcester stays in Worcester, Boston stays in Boston. But I saw people actually leaving their comfort zone to go and network with other people, and they built solid connections. So that's been something that we've been trying to actually bring back. I actually just had a meeting with the city of Boston like 2 days ago to talk about this specific topic about like, we don't have any spaces that are, and just even something that goes from there that can travel to other cities that have the right connectivity, where this kid who's 18 years old who might be looking for that opportunity to go and connect with, you know, some people who are doing it, where are those rooms?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've curated these private spaces, we've curated these block parties, we've curated a lot of things. But I think for me, it's about creating those rooms that are not only safe spaces, but spaces where you can go in and not just go meet the person who's the highest of the high, but meet other like-minded people who you can work with long-term, and also understand that everybody that's in the room is a professional. So, you know, I've had the lucky ability to be able to experience that in a lot of cities. I lived in New York for a few years, so I saw stuff like that regularly, and that is something that, you know, and it, like I said, I think it does come from my maturity, which took me a lot of years to get to that, because I was a, you know, crazy dude when I was younger. But, you know, it's something that I want to create and provide now, because I see not just do like my interns and stuff like that, but I see the need for it with our youth. I feel like today's youth is the most entrepreneurial group of people that I've ever had the privilege of being around. They're not waiting for people who are in my position to come and put them on. They're investing in themselves. So I didn't have people to help me navigate the space. I was fortunate to find those people after a while, but a lot of the spaces that I had to be in, I had to kick the door in and outwork everybody in order to get in those rooms. I don't want people to have to do that. They should have that mentality, but it should be a lot easier, because the world, the internet has made us such a closer, tight-knit, you know, community, that those resources exist. They just need to be exposed. So, you know, just doing my part there. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to get up and do it, because we all have, you know, the same 24 hours, but some people aren't really interested in that. And I've watched a lot of my peers. I'm 44 years old. I've watched a lot of people who have been in positions where they could have helped a lot of people, and they just didn't. They were worried about themselves. They were worried about, I'm not gonna put on these types of artists, they gotta sign to me and this, that, and the third. And it's like, I don't ever want to be in that position. I want to make sure that I am accessible to the people. You know, the space that he talks about that I have in downtown, that place is open for media, that place is open for whoever. It is my private space, but I wanted to create a place not just to be a hub, but a place where people were like, all right, I know that on certain days I can go there. I'm not only going to meet other people, but it's a place for me to go and do my work. You know, I have companies from, you know, all over the place that come there and just come there to work. And then the people who get to come in there, you know what I'm saying, who have the time, you know, if I'm there in the day or whatever it is, time that we're in there, they get to go and make genuine connections, and they're typically long-term connections. That's what we all need. Everything that we have complained about for years exists. So we just got to put these rooms together so that we can go and do that.
And I have nothing more to say on that topic. So I'm gonna let you get another question.
All right. So one of the things in that space is maturing. This road, this journey, we're to a side of it where we have advanced after Napster. We're on this journey now where we're educating others. we have learned enough where, and that's funny, you say I've been out here longer than I've been, that's funny. I'm not gonna touch that, but that was funny. But one of the things that I have seen in my maturing and in my journey and in giving back is the benefits of doing it for the young people. But now we have some older cats that want to be on. They were on, or they thought they were going to be on, they didn't get on, and now they have this thing called TikTok that they're trying to explore, and this, that, and the third. What has your experience been with these older cats trying to, look at him, you want the mic now, right?
So I deal with that every day. And I'm constructive. So if there's something that I feel like we can work on, I'm not gonna say that was garbage, this is trash. Maybe you should do this or rework that. But there's some people that you gotta be like, ooh, I don't know. And then you look at their age and it's like, you don't want to tell nobody to cancel their dream, right? But sometimes you just have to be realistic and let them know how much it takes money to do this. And I wish people could see how much money it takes to fail. Not even how much money it takes to win. If you saw how much it takes to fail, then you'd be like, well, why would I spend $175,000 if it doesn't work for me? Well, that's just the truth. There's not that many that get to cut through. You have to have exceptional talent, you have to have a budget, and you have to have marketing. You have to have great relationships. So it goes beyond a lot of things. People think it's just talent. And they think that if I play their song, that they're going to blow up. If it was that easy, I would make the songs. And I would play my own song. I won't play anybody else's songs. It would be rigged all day. Just hear me. And I don't do that. But I have a duty to be honest and represent the state of Massachusetts, New England, and hip-hop and beyond the right way. So I can't get personal with it. I can't argue with good music. If your music is good, then I have to play it. The easiest way to shut me up is with good music. And I love nothing better than good music. But if you can't create the good music, then that's, it doesn't become my responsibility. But for everybody jumping on TikTok, I mean, there's a place for it. It might just live on TikTok. It doesn't necessarily mean that it lives on radio. It doesn't necessarily mean that it lives in the clubs. Eminem has a ton of music. He can rap till he's blue in the face. One of the best MCs. But he's not getting played in the club. And some people who have Fetty Wap has a whole bunch of music being played in the club, but he's not in the MC battles. So certain people have certain places and certain spaces. So it's just you got to figure out what works for you. And if they invent I don't want to say elderly rap,
senior rap.
But to be 100% honest, you know what?
Andre 3000 is senior rap.
But let me keep it real. I'm glad we're talking about that. No. I got a solution though. I got a solution. Is that hip hop? I'm not gonna throw away what happened in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s and disregard like it's not worth anything. And you look at classic rock, and they have classic rock stations, right? They have shows. They're still touring, and some of them in their 60s and still going. So I'm not going to disregard the people who came before me and made it possible for me to do what it is that I do. I do feel like they do need to have radio stations for hip hop, R&B as well, because Mary J. Blige, one of her biggest songs came, I'm going to say at least about 14 years post her prime. Because Real Love and all that came in the 90s. But when Just Fine and Be Without You came, that was in like 2009. So those are some of her biggest songs. Now, if we would have wrote Mary off, then she would have been done in the 90s. But she still produced that hit later. And I'll give you the correlation is that these girls still love Keisha Cole. So is it to say that Keisha Cole has no value because this isn't her heyday when she came up? There's still people that will consume it. So that will go with an urban AC station. But I think that we need to merge the urban AC with the hip hop as a whole, because those are the real people who can really go out there and sell out these shows. Look what Wu-Tang just did in TD Garden. And I'll give you a correlation to that is that they tried to put Little Durk in the TD Garden 3 times and he failed. So Little Durk is somebody who's hot now. Wu-Tang was hot in the 90s. So I do feel that that generation does still need representation on radio TV, anywhere, and at the same time, those are the people that have the most money. We don't have more money than them. They're making more money than us. So when it comes to the target demographic, they are going to be able to spend more money than us, and I'm not going to disregard those people like they have no worth just because of their age. When you do this, you get better.
Yes.
So with the singers, look at Ernie Isley. You know, he's just getting better. He's older, but he's still getting better. So I will not say that when I said the elderly rap, I'm talking about the people that haven't made it. Not talking about the ones that have came before. I respect my elders by all means.
I definitely agree with that. So on the, there's like two sides to that. So I've always felt that in hip hop, and it's the only genre that really does it, we write off our elders really quickly. And all of a sudden something's not hot. But in the last few years, we've seen, it's like, all right, well, everyone young hasn't been able to really put numbers on the board in regards to making consistent money. Most of these guys have made their money off streaming, but when it comes to everything else, they've been, dramatically low. So we have to find ways to celebrate. In rock, you can't come into rock and say, oh, AC/DC fell off. You look crazy saying something like that. They'll write you off quick. Oh, you don't respect our elders? No, you gotta go. But in hip hop, we don't do that as much. So I think it's an energy of we have to, back to the youth, we gotta make sure that they appreciate what came before them. Last year we did a campaign for Rock the Bells, and so I was able to bring my son, my nephew, my godson, and a bunch of other kids. None of them were above the age of 12. And I watched them fall in love with hip hop that day. Like watching Z-Trip and watching LL Cool J and watching Queen Latifah, who they only knew as an actress. And she was the hardest one on stage with Moni Love and Tretch. There's no one, and Black Thought was on stage, and she was the hardest one on stage. They were like, yo, I didn't know she rapped. I was like, yeah. I had to go back and show them another day of like what the music that she used to do, and I was just like, wow. There's so many generations of people in our culture only that haven't been, put on to the older people who came before us. So I think that as a culture, we have to ingrain that, like, all right, you need to, learn who these people are. What I will say going into now, as people talk about like older people coming into music, there's nothing wrong with older people coming in, but just remember that like you have to have the same energy level as the younger ones, because, when you're older, you got kids to raise, you have a job, you have real responsibilities. You can't just pour money into rap, you know what I mean, or to whatever it is. So I think that we just also have to make sure that when older artists are coming in and doing it, that they're just realistic, that the 22-year-old, the 19-year-old, or whatever, they have all the time in the world to go make mistakes. You might not have that kind of time. So it's also like managing your expectations as well, because it's going to be different for a 38-year-old to come out and impact the world when he has a laundry list of responsibilities versus the kid that might be figuring out whether he wants to go to college or not. So I think it's the dual component of that.
Now I want to open it up to the audience. Does the audience have any questions, any comments, anything they want to share about this thing called hip hop and the maturing of it over the last 20, 30 years, and how to navigate this thing? Because we have guys up here who are very familiar with the navigation of this thing called hip hop and music in general. So does anybody from the floor have anything to say?
One thing that I'd like to touch upon and highlight that I thought was pretty heavy, it was when you acknowledged kind of pulling back and like burnout from where does work life stop from like personal life. I've experienced that like as an artist in the city and like trying to throw events and be engaged with the community, and like at times feeling like the juice isn't necessarily like worth the squeeze. And like you mentioned like going where the money's at. Do you ever struggle or feel like guilt, like you're turning your back on your community, and then like to just struggle with that dichotomy as like you know what I mean?
There's been times, but when you put yourself in a role, especially out here where the resources can be limited sometimes. So I'll use your example. As you were throwing shows, everyone that did music relied on you. Everyone. It didn't matter what you were going through. It didn't matter what you were dealing with on the side. When are you going to do the next show? How can I get on the show? What are you going to do in regards to X, Y, Z? So it's just understanding that when you put yourself in those positions, sometimes there's a lot of stress that comes from it, and you have to minimize it. So there's been times where I've done stuff, and I'm just like, I wish I could do more, but then it's also, people are a lot easier to take from you than to give. So sometimes you have to keep that in the forefront. You create the biggest hip hop platform in the market, no one cares about how your day is. But when can I get my post up? When can I get on the playlist? When can I get on the bill? What position can I be on the bill? Not how's your day. Want to know something I respect about him? He calls me to ask me how my day is. He doesn't call me to ask me about the multitude of things that I got my hands in, because he's someone that genuinely cares about how it is. That's why he can call me and ask me for a kidney, and I'll say, yeah. You know what I mean? But a lot of people in most industries, not even just hip hop, they only want what they want. So you just have to, understand that part and just remember, you may have a heart, but a lot of other people who are coming may not. And it's not saying you got to be cold or, a bad person, but you just got to, maintain your boundaries and stuff like that. And that was the hardest thing for me to learn, because there was a time where I wanted to help everybody and I wanted to do all that. But when I saw that it wasn't just about the lack of help, but just how much time I wasn't taking care of myself, how it was affecting my physical health, how it was affecting that. I try to pride myself as being a good guy, but when I'm having problems with a bunch of people because of other things that have actually nothing to do with me, I got to cut that stuff out of my life, because why am I going to be stressed out about something that I didn't create? And unfortunately in hip hop culture, we spread negativity before we spread positivity, and the issues that people may have with you about what you're not doing for your show overlaps the good work that you're doing for providing the shows. And so it's really about what you allow into in your space and allow into the things that you're doing, because they're not going to stop asking. That's the one thing that's not going to happen. You can stop doing that event for 10 years and someone's going to ask you about it, and it's like, well, I went off and did all these other great things. Oh yeah, well, when are you going to do that? You know what I mean? Like, that's just what it is.
Thank you. I'm burnt out right now. and I say it being 100%, I've been burnt out for years. And it's because I can perform. My bottom barrel performance is above most people's peak. And people rely on me. But if I keep on saying yes to them, I'm saying no to myself. So it comes a time where I gotta prioritize myself, whereas like I stepped away from nightlife, healthier lifestyle for me. I don't have to be out at night making the worst decisions. After the club, you're going to get something that's fried, or you're going to a gas station or something, or Chinese food. So I'm avoiding all that. But I realized, I think last week, just being 100% transparent, I missed the radio shift. I never missed the radio shift. And I didn't know that I had a radio shift. I didn't read the calendar right. So I got a text message like, yo, I was like, and then I was to the point where I had to go to a pool party, then I'd do my grandmother's 81st birthday party. So I couldn't make it there. So I was like, all right, I just gotta take the L on this one. But I know that I don't function like that. So now this is to the point where it's like, all right, E, you really gotta take the break now. I've been telling everybody I'm gonna take a break for so long. I'm gonna go vacation. When I go on tour, everybody thinks, oh, he's on. No, I'm actually taking on extra work in addition to the regular work. I still do work for radio stations when I'm on the road. So this past tour, I was timing out commercial breaks for the country morning show while being on the road. So we have Bobby Bones on 101.7 The Bull. People don't even know that. I work on Kiss 108, Jam 94.5 obviously, 101.7 The Bull, 101.7 WZLX, 97.7 Roomba. I work on like 7 different radio stations across iHeart. So when they call on me, I can get the job done because I'm reliable, so they know that. So it's like I'm the Swiss Army knife. So let's say it's like this time right now, we'll load in, we'll do the show, everything. I'll do everything toward the night when we're getting ready to get out the venue. I'll log in online. I'll look at the commercial breaks. I time it out to hit exactly, and then I can leave. And then I gotta listen to the show and monitor it from 6 to 10 a.m. And that's given that I'm on the East Coast. Now, if I'm on the West Coast, I'm 3 hours behind. Everybody's still kind of partying, whatever. I still have to stay up. I got deadlines, but I'm on East Coast time, but I'm technically in the West Coast. So I'm taking on all this work. Meanwhile, I still have to perform night in, night out. I have to do all that and do my regular radio stuff for jamming. So I'm doing all these things, and the pay isn't worth it. You couldn't pay me enough to, like, I'd be like, okay, I appreciate that, but you give me my time back. Anybody who dies when they're on their deathbed, nobody says, I wish I made more money. Right. So I wish I spent more time doing this and doing that. So right. I'm trying to learn from what they said when they were on their deathbed now so that I avoid those things. So burnout is horrible, and I'm about to take a vacation somewhere. All deserved.
We're just going to open it up if anybody has anything else.
I had one more.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I was actually thinking about the evolution of mental health and hip hop, you know, and so just how the conversations are, you know, the connections with the artists, what they're speaking on in terms of mental health, and just being tapped into the culture. What do you see in terms of the conversations around mental health in hip hop?
There's more of them. Are they prioritized? Not exactly yet. They are spoke on, you know, people talk on, you know, do you want to talk or do you want to do her? Yes. You want to do her. So somebody has to put it in action, they got to apply it. So we can speak about it, but who's really doing something? Who's following up? I pride myself in asking questions on radio that are different than what the typical person would ask. So Al has been on trial for murder 2 times. He's a free man. I can't say he did anything or he didn't do anything. I can accept him for who he is, and I speak to him about certain things. And I ask him about therapy, and he's like, I need it. You know, and then he asked me, how was it for you? Like at the interview we have, it's like an interview, but it looks like, it feels like just natural conversation. So it'll make you think a little differently. I mean, I've asked him from that to his belief in God, and he said he was a lifer. Like they was on it. He says, oh, they couldn't go to church. The pastor had to come to them. So he said he didn't care if he was playing basketball, whatever was going on. When the pastor came, he dropped the ball, he went and got his Bible, and he went to church. So people don't hear these other sides, and people talk about mental health and things that actually are good, but that's what I pride myself on speaking to them about. Yes. Because you can body an interview as an artist. Jay-Z said it. He said, plus my interviews are better. So he knows what to do, but it's like it's a lost art because a lot of these people feel like they don't have to do interviews. And that's the difference. But I say, in the music, what you look for, you actually find too. So if you want to go look for ignorance, you'll find it. If you want to go look for good music, you'll find it at the same time. So there's a lot of music that I have a mental health playlist on Spotify that I'll listen to. And then constantly, like constantly, I'll listen to new music, and then maybe I'll hear a song and I'll add it to the playlist. Just because I know that these things can help people when I pass it on to them. So I will say it's in a minority. The music that we're getting today isn't like the music that we got in the 90s as far as actually having a positive message. I'm not gonna say that everything was positive in the 90s, no. Onyx was acting up, they was talking crazy. Akinelli was talking about stuff that I really probably shouldn't have been listening to. So there's a lot of things. So I'm not gonna sit there and give them all the credit, but at the same time, I won't downplay that there is good music out there tonight.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
I think it all changed. Honestly, people are starting to prioritize their health a lot better, and I think they're starting to bleed into the hip hop conversation. I think people are just more conscious of what they're doing these days. So I think that's the part that's changing it. Because the one thing I will say is that people are at least a lot of what I'm listening to. There's a lot more, not there's a lot more message, but there's just people who are just showcasing a different lifestyle. You know, it's not as much about let's go out and party and pop bottles and do X, Y, Z. You know, I've seen people who are talking more about what they're going to do in the community and, you know, things they're doing with the kids and just things that they pulled out of their lives. And, you know, I love, you know, Coke rap as much as anyone. I love the clips, but at the same time, I love the fact that you got a lot of young boys who are out here talking about their new love for holistic life and how many people are vegan and how many people are just changing. So I think it's really about lifestyle that really does everything. It's not just all of a sudden everybody goes, oh, you know, my mental health. It's like, nah, what got you to that point and what are you doing in your life? Because mental health is one thing, but physical health is another. And unfortunately, you can't do one without the other because you can be as sane as you want to and then still go to your doctor and need 50 million prescriptions. So it's like, you know, I'll look at something as like alcohol. You know, for my age group, we were spending, what, $33 billion in alcohol? That number is 3 now. So that means there's a whole generation of people who are not partaking in party life the same way. And that ultimately is going to affect everything all around. They're going to make better decisions at night. They're going to, you know, not do a bunch of reckless and crazy stuff because they're intoxicated, and it's showing, you know, a lot of younger people. Like right now, you can't even open a restaurant without a mocktail menu. You know what I mean? So I think it's just now that we're prioritizing our health, all these things are coming into the play, and you know, people are just trying to live longer lives. I don't want to rap till I'm 40. I want to rap till I'm 70.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So that's just the mentality that is, I think people are just finally getting to. Is like we've spent so much time partying and just going crazy and doing things that beat up our bodies. You know, that's going to affect everything else that we do. You know, I love a Future record as much as most, but I think people are also finally seeing, like, he openly came out and said he doesn't partake in any of the things he raps about. So now people don't want to partake in that because the man who made us talk about all these things openly says, I don't do it. So I think there's just that, and that goes back to what you were talking about, the maturity. That's not just my maturity, that's a lot of people's maturity. I think hip hop has finally gotten to a place where it's not just about the party life and the negativity. You have the freedom to go do what you want. Look at someone like Tyler, the Creator. He doesn't put any of that stuff out there. So he's probably one of the biggest artists that's out there that influences kids. You should see how the way TD Garden looked when he was over there. Their liquor sales were terrible because, one, the crowd was majority young, and then also no one is about that in his room. So it really is just a matter of we have to take control of the narrative. You know, I know that there's people who push certain artists for certain agendas, but a lot of those agendas have expired. And, you know, they may need somebody to help bring that negativity back for them, but I don't think that is really where it's at because I think we're also in an era of more free thinking. You know, there was a time when I started where you could kind of control the narrative and you could go to the media and do this, you can go and do that. We live in an era where the media is controlled by the politicians and we're seeing all this contradictory stuff from our music to our politicians to other people. And I don't think people are as, you know, misinformed as they used to be. So they're making better choices in all pieces of consumption. So I think this is where we're at.
I personally listen to Christian hip hop more than anything, and it's because it's a consistent positive message. It's a consistent positive message, and I just don't need to listen to negativity in totality. It's hip hop never was this bad as far as the message. In the '90s, I was a kid. Like I could say hip hop raised me in a lot of things. Like I learned certain words, I learned what certain things meant. But I also had a discernment as a young kid not to follow the wrong thing. So I knew if I had to do something to look over my shoulder, I shouldn't have been doing it. And I'm not going to do that in the first place. But Christian hip hop just does that much more for me. And I don't like, you know, there's secular versus non-secular. And I don't believe all secular music is negative. So I just feel like the discernment, and I feel like if I were to give people the Christian hip hop music that I listen to, they probably wouldn't notice the difference. And it goes from R&B, it goes to hip hop, it goes to everything. So I just think that, like my boy D1, he doesn't even like to be defined as a Christian hip hop rapper. He just wants to be called a rapper. And he's similar to my boy Pitbull, because Pitbull doesn't want to be called a Latin rapper. He said, call me a rapper who happens to be Latin. So it's the same thing with D1. Call me a rapper who happens to be Christian. So I believe the message is different, but it's never going to lose. And I actually feel like they have a cheat code to winning, because radio loves a positive message. Everybody, the world loves a positive message. Negativity isn't something that we necessarily want to do. I don't think that all people are negative to begin with in the first place. I believe something happened somewhere down the line and they didn't get to the root of it and really identify with it and try to solve that problem. So I do believe that all people are good, and in the beginning, the exception. So it's a process, it's a transition, but sometimes things have to get so bad that we have to hit the reset button, and I think we're close to hitting the reset button.
Does anybody want to share anything else?
Yeah, just one quick thing.
Okay.
I've been in the area since '88. That's when I came from Boston. And thanks. And I remember coming out here and not seeing hip hop, and I was like, "This is crazy." I started doing a radio show, WXPL, I believe it was, and just bringing hip hop to everybody and just having a blast. And it's just cool to see you guys out here like just doing it, man, because it was not around here. So you guys have done a lot of the weight, a lot of the heavy lifting, I should say, and we need to appreciate that. So I need to say that to y'all first. And I don't know who E-Dub is, but I know who Sin is. So if his mama call him Sin, I'm gonna call him Sin. But good people, good family. And again, Cedric's been around so long. I remember, just walking the street, seeing him. Hey, what's up, man? And it just feels good. It just feels good to know that good people are still around doing hip hop. That's what I want to say.
To tell you the truth, it was extremely difficult to make it here because I'm from here. So going out to Boston, I didn't have peers with me from here. So it was, and I was like the first to come from out here. Like, well, Chubb had moved out here, but Chubb was from New York. So he had a cheat code. Me, I came up after him. So I didn't have anybody for, like, I had his phone number and stuff like that, but it wasn't like, somebody could throw me in and help me out. So it was difficult. So that's why when I met with him and I seen what was going on, that was like my first like real industry like person out here was him. And I'm very grateful for that relationship. But it was extremely difficult coming from here because people disregard this area. And they're like, oh, you're from Fitchburg, whatever. Well, the little kid from Fitchburg is the one who grinded and who's the one who represents Massachusetts hip hop out here right now. And I DJ for the artist who represents New England and is in hip hop. Like I'm there. I don't toot the horn, but it's just like, to be real is like, I was dead set on this. You couldn't have told me that this wasn't gonna happen. I knew this was gonna. This is no surprise to me. And if you know me, and you knew me, you know that this is no surprise to you. I didn't party. You didn't see me out here doing the wrong thing. You didn't see none of that. You saw I probably had some headphones on. There was some music around me somewhere, somehow. You saw me around my grandmother, around my mother. I was locked in on this, and it took a lot. It took a lot of sacrifices. I sacrificed family reunions. I sacrificed trips with the family and everything just to be readily available and dedicate my life to this, which I can't even tell you that it's worth it just yet. But I can tell you that I'm in it, and I'm going to do everything I can do to make sure that it is worth it. So I appreciate you, and even I appreciate you for plowing my grandmother's parking spot up there too, man. Thank you. So, and another thing is, I appreciate everybody who came out. There should be way more people here, right? But they'll complain when there's nothing here. But they didn't show up to this, right? So this is why you can't just give anybody anything, because all they want is just the result. They don't want the process. And if they're not willing to go through the process, I mean, I'm willing to make it easier for somebody, but I'm not going to give them everything. It's like, do you really want this? Like Red Alert told me, if it's in your heart, you'll find a way. And I'm like, what was that? You gave me words. But now I realize what it was. He said, hey, listen, if you're really going to do this, you're going to do it. You're going to find a way. And that's exactly what I did. And I look forward to the day that me and Red Alert meet again, and then we can laugh about that moment. So it was really difficult coming from Pittsburgh. But I will say that I wanted to do it from here. I didn't want to change the way I looked. I didn't want to change the way I act. I didn't want to change anything. I wanted to show people that it's possible. Same kid that walked on Main Street, went to store 24. I rented out 3 pyramids to throw my parties. I did Post 29. I did parties over there. I did what was it, Hammond Hall over Fitchburg State College? Yep. I did parties in there, so it's like, you know, like this is mine. Like I'm a product of this. So if I can do it,
British American Club.
I did British. I did the Post. I did Franco-American. I did Leominster parties too. It's whatever. Like it's all whatever that club was. It was crazy.
Liquid.
It was. Oh no, we had some fun times in Liquid. Liquid was the one. I didn't get to do that 490 thing. I was too young for that. I was a kid, so. But,
I wasn't him.
You might have known, but you went to 490.
Yeah.
I see. There you go. So I heard about
in 88.
Yeah, see, I heard about 490. I heard about the last thing in there that shut it down too. So, but like I do this really for inspiration and motivation, more so to inspire the next generation to follow what it is in their heart to go with at the same time, because it started with a dream, it started with passion, but you just got to be so dead set on it that it's gonna happen. You can't. It's like in the Bible it says unwavering faith. You can't have 1% doubt. You have to know that it's gonna happen. So I was dead set on this, and now, like I said earlier, I got the platform. I'm still gonna do what it is that I do, but I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it, and I'm gonna do it in purpose. So, but I appreciate all you guys for coming out too as well.
That's definitely one thing that I noticed about Massachusetts. You know, being from another place, I had a different set of eyes. You know, I always looked at Boston or just Massachusetts as a place that had a lot of opportunity. And then I noticed the hard components for people who were naturally from here. You know, as I had the opportunity to travel around the state and do a lot of different work, I just noticed that, you know, a lot of people just didn't feel, you know, that camaraderie of like, oh, let's go and connect with Brockton. Let's go connect with this town. Let's go connect with that town. Those are things that are kind of happening now. You know what I mean? Which I'm really proud of a lot of these surrounding areas. You know, as much as everybody puts so much emphasis on Boston, for me, I don't ever look at Boston. Like when I pitch clients, I don't pitch Boston. I pitch New England. You know what I mean? I don't think Boston itself is enough when you have an entire state of people and a lot of active, you know, towns and the cities around it. So, you know, I'm glad that we're getting to a space where you can be from Worcester, or you can be from Lawrence, or you can be from areas that people respect it. Because I remember, you know, one of the artists that I work with really closely is Terminology, and you know, him and the team, they've toured the planet since 2001, 2. And there was a time where people were like, oh, he's not from Boston. We ain't even working with him. It's like, yeah, but he's got people talking about Boston and Czechoslovakia.
Right.
You haven't left the city yet. You know what I mean? So
Your word,
you can't be mad at that. Or now seeing people like who don't want to embrace Millies the same way. It's like, you know, we should be happy that one city isn't taking the spotlight, that this entire state is now being respected in regards to the artists that we have. You know, you have your Bias, your Joiners, your Terms. You have so many different people who are doing really great work in so many different spaces. And I'm really happy that like New England is finally like embracing that. You know, when you think about even down to our clubs, one of the biggest parties in the entire region is Day Trail. You know what I mean? Who else do you know that can sell 3,500 tickets in like 8 hours and they have no celebrities? You know what I mean? But that is like proof that the companies that really want to do this, they're gonna find a way to do it. And if you build the right type of community, you also can find the amount of people who will continuously support you, because they've been going for what, 11 years? You know what I mean? And there's a lot of other examples like that. You know what I mean? Like, I love what Jordan's doing right now, where he's not as much that he's earned and as he's amassed in his career, he still brings everything home. He could have went and rallied people in Boston. He could have went to just New York City. He could have went to all these places, but no, we're gonna do everything in Worcester. So that's gonna show Worcester, like, all right, we don't need to go outside of our home. We can do it ourselves. We actually don't need to be embraced by all these other places, as long as we keep our heads down and just work. And I'm just really like, as a person, I've been here for a long time, but I still feel like an outsider sometimes, because there's no area that I can call my neighborhood, because I'm not from here originally. I moved here when I was 20. So my adolescence was spent in Missouri. So to see that people have a new sense of pride of where they're from, you know, there was a mean tear when Brockton had a bunch of artists coming out. The Latrell James, the Van Burens, and a laundry list of others. 10, 15 years ago, we would have wrote them off. Oh, F Brockton, F Boston. So I love that the back to your question about maturity, that the market has matured in a way where people are starting to work and be communal versus I have to be the man. My company's got to run things. You know, I think that's just, we're in a great space.
There's two. You, whichever one goes first, ladies, you can do it.
No, you got to stay because I'm going to make an announcement.
Okay, all right.
All right, so I want to.
Your mic.
It's all right.
No, we got to catch you on this.
All right, yo. So thank y'all both for being coming out here. I just wanted to, I guess, piggyback on both what y'all were talking about, and primarily focus on like Massachusetts hip hop and like kind of the maturity. So like here we've been working with gateway cities, right? Like acknowledging gateway cities. A lot of places that we've been touching upon are what is called gateway cities. I was at a creative summit. Brian Pistols, who also knows I seen Reason here, but he mentioned, like, you know, how do we get the unity amongst Massachusetts hip hop or just music in general, especially where you see that maturity the most in these gateway cities. You mentioned Lynn, you mentioned Fall River, Brockton, Worcester, Fitchburg, Springfield, the Berkshires, right? All the places where are what are quote unquote gateway cities is often places that have the most poverty. It's often places that are like suffering the most with the opioid crisis, but it's also where, like Massachusetts, you can point to these places and say that's where hip hop is thriving. It is a core thing that is uplifting the community, right? Whether negative or positive, it is a core thing that is bringing the community together to have some of these tougher discussions, and also like help some of these people who have had harder times in life, like kind of get back to some type of stability, or at least, you know, participate in the economic conversation similar to other places. So I wanted to get your all thoughts, like, you know what I mean, like you guys are very much seeing it, interacting in it, and I think Brian, it's been mentioned, at least in the work that I do, is like, how do we do a Gateway Cities tour, right? Like, how do you take the Van Burens of the world and bring them to a Lynn, and then how do you take them and then bring them to Springfield, and then how do you do a tour in other cities where there's big cities like this? I live in Texas, so Austin, Houston, Dallas, but you'll get those artists, you'll get the whole scene that will, right, like Trout, and all the other cities do a similar thing. Every state does a similar thing. And again, in this maturity where we are now having these discussions, is there space? Is this a time, like, space for us to, like, kind of mobilize and coordinate and get some of these things, like, in motion?
Depending on the city, there's space. I'm not gonna tell you, yeah, you can do it right here. I'm not gonna make you let you waste your time. To be completely honest with you, go to the bigger cities. But if you know there's some dope people around you, bring them with you to the dope cities. So if you pull up with 5 or 6 people that are dope and you're networking, now they're gonna remember you guys. And then you're gonna have to lean in, like, yo, you might have an opportunity that you can put them on with. So a lot of times people wanna hustle and get pulled up. But sometimes you gotta hustle parallel. And it's okay, because sometimes that person's parallel may go first. but you established a relationship when you guys were both on the same level. So when they go up, they have no problem pulling you up. So I would say, go to the, if I'm being honest, just go to Boston. I'm not gonna tell you, yeah, go to Worcester. If there's something going on, go ahead. You know, if it makes sense. But if you really want to get some recognition, you're gonna want to go to Boston. But there's this thing that you can really use that'll help you network right now. You got it. It's your phone. Go look and see who's hot, who's what. Follow them. Don't have the ego. Congratulate them. Don't just jump, yo, you know, show them some support, show them some love, and then they'll see what's going on. They should. If they don't, it's cool, it's whatever. Just don't let that change you for being who you are. Joyner got played to the left so many times. So many times. People talked down on him. There was times that I wanted to get physical with certain people because of the disrespect. But we let all that go. We've had stories of people playing us, the same people played him to the left, played me to the left, in separate instances. And we both said, you know what, we're gonna make it. We're gonna do this. And what we said we were gonna do, we surpassed that a long time ago. We did that 10 years ago. It happened that fast. So I'm gonna tell you, you might get treated wrong. Don't take it personal. Keep it pushing, because if you're dedicated to making this happen, you gotta do it. And don't get caught up on just being here. Network with somebody in St. Louis. Network with somebody in Phoenix, Arizona. Because if they're popping over there, you're popping over here, you can, it's the internet. You can go viral just off of this right here. And one of my boys posted, Tyler Loyal, I don't know if you know who he is. He posted some content just driving in the car rapping. He said, I gotta do more stuff like that. I just went up 2,100 followers off of that video right there. No shirt on, just rapping a song that he already made, but it caught. So those 2,100, I'm pretty sure they're all not from the same area, but you can grow that. So 2,100 people felt the need to hit follow. You know, more people seen it that probably didn't click follow, but 2,100 felt compelled to hit the follow button. So don't get caught up in right here, because this thing right here will bring you to the world.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think people get so caught up on trying to get popping at home, and they forget that there's a whole world out there. And sometimes the more you do in other places, the more you get received at home. So I do think that there is a way that you can rally the areas, but it's just a matter of, is it beneficial for everyone? You know, like understanding, you know, who and what's in those areas, you know, how many promoters are there, if there's anyone who can actually draw a crowd. You know, there's talent in every city. But, you know, are the venues compliant enough where they're going to want to allow, you know, some places still don't even want hip hop in their spaces. So it's like, do you have the spaces that are going to give you the space that you need to do what you want to do? Do you have the artists that are mature enough to go out and actively promote what they're doing, and or someone who can, you know, facilitate that? I will say that I've seen a lot of camaraderie between like Lynn and like Lowell and Lawrence in particular. I've seen the most, adding probably like Salem into that as well, where like they've done a lot of like indie, you know, mini tours and stuff like that. I just think that if you're putting all your time and effort into here, then you're ignoring the rest of the world. There's a world out there. You know, imagine how easy it is for you to come here and put together a tour, but you already toured 12 other cities. Now all of a sudden they're not looking at you crazy because you've done the bigger work and you're bringing those assets into what you do locally.
You make your announcement?
Yeah. First, I wanted to say, gentlemen, it was great talking to you guys. I got a lot out of it. It was very entertaining. You put it away. You got me very thought-provoking. And the things you guys said most of about collaborating, you know, the different towns and cities and stuff like that. So I wanted to bring up that I'm doing a promotion, okay? So I am part of the New England Gospel Collaborative Network, and this is different towns around. And what we're doing, we're bringing a play to Boston. And I want to promote the play. And the play is called A Good Man is Easy to Find. And I know you've heard A Good Man is hard to find, but we're promoting a play called A Good Man is easy to find, okay? So it's going to be at the Boston College High School on Saturday, August the 2nd. It's going to be in Boston. So those women, get your grandma, your aunties, whoever want to go, and they still looking for a man. They're gonna take this place is gonna tell you about how a man is easy to find. And I find that it's dealing with the mental health because sometimes we think it's hard to find, but it's the way that we think. And the thing, what we put out there. So I'm asking, and I want to promote this. If you want to go, let me know. Take your girlfriends, take your cousins, your sisters. Hey, let's go see what this play is about. It's called A Good Man is Easy to Find. Again, it's going to be on Saturday, August the 2nd. It's at 5 o'clock. And it's going to be at Boston College Boga Performing Arts Center. See me if you are interested in seeing this play. But I really need your support in doing this. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for that. I just have one announcement. This is something for individuals. It's couch surfing focus group, August 5th or 7th. This is to help improve services for youth, young adults who have couch surfed, bounced around, or crashed with people. This is a virtual conversation about the experiences and challenges of temporarily staying with other people. If you sign up, you don't have to participate. We will put this on our page so that way those that want to sign up, we'll have this on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube page, as well as musicmaniatelevision.com, and we'll have the QR code on it. This is by the Unaccomplished Homeless Youth Commission. So this is something that's going on, and they want people between the ages of 18 and 24 to participate. Folks who have couch surfed and didn't have a stable place to stay in the last 6 months. All right, that's what's up. Yeah. Oh, the mic? Okay.
Said I just want to congratulate you, man. 30 years.
Thank you, man.
30 years. It's kind of, I think, I knew Seb. I don't know. Did I know you before the TV thing? Cause
You
my
were
cousin
probably
and all that.
around.
Yeah, I was.
He was around because JT and him was around.
That's what I'm saying. So he says like family. But even my man Justin right here, we were talking about how we would go to, we would both end up watching FATV and we'd be watching the interviews, and it was just something that, we just love hip hop. Like my man loves hip hop just as much as I do, and just to see it on our local TV, to be able to consume it, it meant a lot to us, and for me to step into doing these interviews and to be doing radio and to do all these things, you were definitely a big inspiration, a push, a resource, and I'm greatly appreciative for you. And whenever you need me, if I'm available, I'm here for you. Thank you.
That's what's up, man. Appreciate that.
Man, I like to add is that, I've had the, fortunate ability to be in his ecosystem for many years. He's always been one of the good guys on the media side of things. You know what I mean? But I do love that, his community outreach and the work that he does for not only trying to bring education into our, our music scene and trying to make sure that the elements that might not be so comfortable for us to talk about are front and center. I have to say that, I don't feel that there's a tremendous amount of people who are as brave, you know what I mean? And I think that that's something that we should really acknowledge, is that, you really do have the tough conversations. When we went to the last one that you had in Worcester, and I really appreciated having an opportunity to be on the panel where it was talking about dads and hip hop, because I just feel like there's so many conversations that we should have that we don't get the opportunity to. We could spend all day talking about, music industry and this, that, and the third, but we don't really have those real conversations. And I feel like I can't wait to see you in your 50th year. You know what I mean? Because I'd love to see just where the conversation goes by that point, man. I really do appreciate the work that you do. Seriously.
Well, thank you, man. I want to thank all of you guys that attended. Thank these guys for being here. Brandon and Edub, Idris, some of y'all call him, but these guys have done the yeoman's work, kind of. They've been in the streets. They've been toiling in the fields. All of those things that you hear about, see about, is because they did that. They actually did the work. You know what I mean? And that's why this thing is going to continue to grow. I call it the Prince of the City because I don't know, he ain't going to accept it. I don't care. I'll just call it for myself to say it. But because he has royalty, he has done for this New England. I mean, like, upper echelon. Bedlam too. Bedlam, I'm telling you, man, I can't wait till I find the footage of when he was Bedlam in the streets, man, when Das Effects he had to hold down the streets of Boston. We was in the combat zone. And you would love it. Because we see the maturity of where this thing called hip hop started and where we're at now. Imagine going from the streets of where the combat zone is, right? On that side of Tremont Street, right?
Oh, man.
To where you at now on the other side by that big ass hotel. But this is what I'm saying. This is this thing what hip hop has done. This is the things that we do. And this is why we love you guys for coming out today and being a part of what we got going on. Because there's other people who are receiving this streamed, or because we're streaming this, we sent it to Hawaii, DC, Nigeria. You know, it goes all over the place. But the idea that you guys physically showed up, and that's who wins, the people that show up. So y'all got a chance to talk to these guys, and when this mic goes off and the camera's shut down, you still got a chance to talk to these guys.
Call me anytime.
All right, well, we're going to end this right now so they could do their politicking and get that side underway. We're going to wrap up early. We didn't get the turnout like we thought we were going to get. So we're going to rock for a little while, and then, you know what I mean, then that's what it's going to be. We appreciate everybody for coming out, being a part of what we got going on. Thank you guys for showing up and doing your part and just being here. Thanks to our vendors, Green Meadow Dispensary, Midnight Auto Sales, Thumbs Up Barbershop and Kicks. Thanks to our vendors, Centro Celesta, Tara's Tinkets, Latasha Hughes, she has a financial thing set up over there. Boo Candy, he's over there. Oh, that's them over there. We got Nails for You back there. Look, she's waving. She's too funny. We got Nadine down there, BFK Cuisine. They showed up, so everybody has an opportunity to participate and be a part of what we got going on. Thanks to the Army, the Air Force, the Marines. They came and put in stuff in there, the swag bag for you guys. So yeah, man, we're gonna rock out for a little bit, and thank you guys that's online for staying tuned with us. Those, I don't know, it says like there's 100 and something people. So those 100 and something people that was on streaming through the different platforms. We want to thank you guys, and the train is coming here, so we got to wrap this up. So it's out of here. Y'all have a great night.